had SALGA, which is the South African Local Government Association, which also made a presentation on how they are going to support MPACs. In addition, it was the National Speakers Forum, or not, the Gauteng Speakers Forum, not National one, which also presented what they are planning to do to support MPACs. So we are today at the stage where we need to get a progress report on what has happened since. And as you would also remember, we had a presentation from the Office of the Auditor General, the Gauteng Business Unit, on the audit outcomes of 2021-22 Municipal Finance Management Act audit. And there were a number of recommendations on what needs to happen that arose out of that. So those are some of the things we'll have to look at in this meeting. But just before we do that, I need to indicate that we had a sitting of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature last week on Thursday, I think it was the 31st of August, where we received a report that Gauteng Provincial Government has achieved improved audit outcomes. Of all the 15 votes, none of them is qualified. All of them, some of them, I think there are 2 improvements towards clean audit, including what was a surprise, the Department of Education, and the rest were unqualified with findings. Also, it has to do with the entities. There are about 17 entities we're doing oversight on, so also that they've had improvements. I'm told that there's only 1 or 2. One of them is new, the other one is old, that still have problems, so we have to sort those out. So in that regard, what came out clear from the Premier when he was tabling this is that they recognize the work that is done by SCOPA to ensure oversight and support government to focus on effective governance and financial governance and management. And we like to take this opportunity also to say that one of the reasons why we have these sessions is because we also want to assist municipalities, MPACs in particular, to ensure that they've got effective oversight systems, so to assist their municipalities to achieve better audit outcomes. We are going to have to do things differently today. I must indicate to you that we've got visitors from Namibia. They are visiting the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. They arrived on Sunday. They'll be leaving over the weekend. They are the Public Accounts Committee from the Namibia Council, but they'll explain that soon. Next to me is the chairperson of that Public Accounts Committee at that level. And so I will ask that when we do the roll call, the introductions, or when we deal with attendance, I'll give him an opportunity just to ensure that his delegation is introduced. So, honorable members, colleagues, everyone, you're welcome to this meeting, joint meeting of the Standing Committee of Public Accounts and Gauteng Provincial Legislature, together with the Municipal Public Accounts Committees. Let's move on then. Before we get to attendance, I would like to hand over to the chairperson Maybe let's do, I think first let's do attendance, because I think it better fits in there. Let's start with the members of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Are there any apologies we've received? Mampati or Sizagele or Simon? We can't hear you.
Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members, honorable delegation from Namibia, honorable MPACs as well as colleagues. We've received apology from Honorable Ganyani. He's attending the planning meeting in Cape Town, the NCOP Provincial Week planning meeting in Cape Town. The other apologies from Honorable Masilena. She won't be able to attend due to other commitments. We've got also apologies, Chair, for late arrival for the following honorable members: Honorable Silius, Honorable Atkinson, Honorable Rendell, Honorable Delange. They'll be attending late due to the other meeting that they are attending currently. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Maybe let's explain that the members that were mentioned at the end, when we planned, this meeting was supposed to have taken place last week on Friday. We then had a discussion because we knew that there was a delegation from Namibia that's going to be joining us. So we decided that let's postpone it to Wednesdays. Wednesdays in the legislature is caucus days. So unfortunately, they couldn't move the meeting of their caucus. That's why they agreed that it's going to be a short meeting, so they'll join us after that. So their apologies was even accepted before that. Let's check if we've got all the municipalities present here. Ekurhuleni, not here. We are in Ekurhuleni. Okay. City of Joburg, thank you very much. City of Tshwane, thank you very much. Western District Municipality, thank you very much. Merafong Local Municipality, thank you. Rand West Local Municipality, thank you. Oh, yeah, that's impressive. That's why they've got improved audit results last time, you remember. Yes. And then Mohale City, local municipality, thank you very much, impressive. And then the Sidibeng, I know that there were some apologies we received, you should have explained on party, but let's go through it, then we'll explain. Sidibeng District Municipality, okay, that will be explained. Mfuleni Local Municipality. The last time they didn't have a chairperson. They were going to, the speaker was going to appoint the chairperson. Okay. Then Lesedi Local Municipality. Then Midval Local Municipality. Thank you very much. Okay, but if you can explain the situation of Sidibeng District Municipality, Mfuleni Local Municipality, and Lesedi. I'm not sure if those are the three, because I'm not sure it's 2 or 3, but yeah.
Thank you, Chair. We've received this morning apology from Lesedi Local Municipality. Councillors will be attending the Salga National meeting. They therefore cannot attend this meeting. And then the other apology is from Sidibeng. They are attending the same meeting, Chair, the Salga National Assembly meeting. They won't be able to attend. The other apology was from Merafong, Councillor Mpitikezi is also attending the Saga National Assembly meeting.
Okay, I know that a number of councillors sitting here, they were at the same meeting, and some of them told me this morning that they had to apologize there because they understand the importance of our meeting. And they said to me that the main reason why they apologize is because with yesterday. But I don't think that we should punish those that are still there. We understand, I mean, priorities, we prioritize things is different. And the way we separate delegations is differently. Okay, Kazongo Minja. Yes. To then introduce a few words out of that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair Vanille, for really accepting and inviting us to your meeting as your brothers here in the Republic. And my name is Peter Kalongominya. Public Accounts Committee in the National Council. So before I say anything, I would like my delegation maybe to introduce themselves, and then we will say one or two words thereafter.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
What you suggest is you can sit down.
My name is Leonard Chikulo, the Vice Chairperson, National Council member of Namibia, the National Council of Namibia. Thank you very much.
Good morning again, Honorable Chair and my colleagues here. I am Lonia Sinana Kaisungu, a member of Public Account and Economy in National Council, Namibia. I thank you.
Good morning. My name is Apna Shikongo, a member of the Thank you very much.
Good morning to all. My name is National Council in Namibia, Accounts Committee. Thank you.
I'm the member of the Public Accounts Committee within
Excuse me, let them give you the mic because no, the reason, let me just explain. It's okay. No, let me just explain. The reason is this being recorded, so it's important that it is recorded, yes.
Let me start over then. Good morning, everybody. My name is Harald James Kambrudi, a member of the National Council in the Parliament of the Republic of Namibia. I represent the region called the Hardap region. And as you have provinces, we have regions. As you have a National Assembly, we do have. As you have a National Council of Provinces, we have a National Council, and I'm a member of that National Council and member of this committee that's visiting you. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. My name is Himuvi Bingeneko. I'm the Deputy Director responsible for International Relations and Chamber Proceedings at the National Council of the Parliament of Namibia. And I'm also assigned to the Public Accounts Committee as a Chief Parliamentary Clerk. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Cooper. I am the Deputy Director for Research and Information Services of the National Council and is assigned to this Committee Public Accounts. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Miriam Gundura. I'm also a support staff from Namibia.
A very good morning to you, Honorable Chair. I am Helena Sobasovani. I'm a parliamentary clerk assigned to the committee. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, my Honorable Chair. Those are the members of the committee and the accompanied the committee to this very important benchmarking visit to the Republic of South Africa. And as I've already put forward, Namibia consists of two houses, the National Assembly and then the National Council. The National Council of Namibia consists of 42 members. We in Namibia have 14 regions, and each region to the National Council. So 3 times 14 gives you the 42. It's why we have 42 members in the National Council. So the National Council is the house of review. So things bills are started in the National Assembly, and then when done in the National Assembly, they are again tabled in the National Council for review, and after the review of these bills, then we send it back to the National Assembly with or without recommendations, and then if whatever is done on those bills, then it can go to the President for assent. This is what the format is in Namibia, how legislations are done in Namibia. And then we have a committee that we call the Public Account Committee that has also a constitutional committee that have their mandate also derived from the Constitution, and especially Article 74 of the Namibian Constitution is dealing with the establishment of committees in the National Council. And then when we have different committees in the National Council that we don't want to go into the different committees, we only focus mainly on the Committee of Public Accounts that is here, and then why the importance of us, and then really how we appreciate us being part of this very important meeting of today. Really to us it's a very important meeting, but you will understand why the importance of this meeting to us when I just quickly run over the functions and the mandate of the committee. Our committee, as I have already alluded to it, is dealing with the questions falling within the ambit of officials, ministries, and agencies of public. Then we are dealing with the Ministry of Public Enterprises, and then we're also dealing with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, SME Development, and actually also the Ministry of Finance. And then the other mandate that we are having is also our committee shall examine annual reports of the Auditor General as may be referred to it by the Council through the National Assembly in terms of provisions of the Constitution and advise the Council thereon. And then our third mandate is also to scrutinize government financial proposals and fiscal policies and advise councils thereon. And then our fourth mandate is also to examine incidents of financial mismanagement in the public sector and advise the council thereon. And also the other function will be to promote trade, industrialization, and SME development. And then our other function will be to monitor budget implementation of officers, ministries, agencies falling within the ambit of the Standing Committee. And then we have also a mandate to monitor the implementation of the decentralization process on matters falling within the ambit of the Standing Committee. And then lastly, also we have a role to perform any other functions as may be referred to it by the Council. So because I have told you that we are coming from regions, and in our Council, we have also to table and bring in reports of regional concern. And why I have also mentioned that this engagement to us is very important, this committee is examining Auditor General reports with regard to local and regional councils. In our case, when we talk of local authorities, then we talk of municipalities, village and town councils. In our case, we don't have metros, so we have municipalities, then we have village councils and town councils. So when those reports are tabled by through the assembly, then they are referred to our committee, and then we go out and do some oversight on these reports. So today, we wanted, the main purpose of our engagement or what we wanted to come and see, and the purpose of our visit is very simple. We have only, I think, four real points that we really wanted to come and see where can we get in, how you are doing it, and how can we improve and learn from you. And one of those is the mechanism used by your SCOPA to enforce these recommendations. And I think that is one of, as we have got it from our Honorable Chair, that is one of these functions that they are trying to do today, to see how best their recommendations have been put into work here from the metros, municipalities, and all those that are present at this engagement. And then one of the other purpose of our visit is source and tools used by SCOPA to initiate investigations on public financial mismanagement. And then the third purpose of our nature of oversight activities conducted by your financial portfolio committee. And then the fourth one will be the nature of oversight activities conducted by your economic portfolio committee. Those are the four very simple purposes of our visit that we want to come and see how you are doing it, my Honorable Chair. And then from there maybe, my Honorable, as we have also whispered with my Honorable Chair here, my Honorable members, you are really very free. If you see you can get in and ask for clarity during the deliberations, as my Honorable Chair have permitted us already, you can do so. Don't wait for my permission, please. So let us engage, let us be part of the meeting and see how far we can learn. Thank you very much, my Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let's move on. I think it will be important for me just to ask the members of our committee to introduce themselves so that you can know them, those that are here currently. Honorable Kekana will start with you, and then we'll...
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to all the members and all the honorable members from Namibia and the staff that is present. My name is Rufile Kekana, member of the Provincial Legislature, and I'm a member of this committee, SCOPA. Thank you very much.
Good morning, esteemed honorable chairs, honorable members, and esteemed honorable delegation from Namibia and South Africa and various MPACs from various municipalities. My name is Chilidzi Mnyai. I'm the member of we abbreviated as the SCOPA. It's the same Committee of Public Accounts, as well as the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Education. Thank you. But here, I'm ordinary member. The issues of education should not arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to everyone. Delegations from Namibia. My name is Pumlam Dlangomo, member of this committee. Thank you.
Okay, here is another member sitting at the back. There's a reason. Please forgive me for sitting as she has explained. So if you can introduce yourself quickly. Or is she not there yet? Okay. No, thank you very much. Those are the members we have. As you've already heard, the apologies, some will be joining us soon. Thank you very much. We now move on to our agenda. If you can fly the agenda quickly, so that you can approve it together here before we move. So we've dealt with the matters of opening remarks. If you can move to the next page. We've dealt with attendance. So we'll now move with the confirmation of the report. So I will present the report briefly, the report of our last meeting, so that you can then be able to agree if it's a true reflection. The reason we're doing that, Honorable Chair and and all of us in attendance is that we know that some of you could be joining this meeting for the first time because you know the problems that in municipalities, there's consistent changes of members, so we thought it's important that we take you through that. What's the agenda now? It's off the screen. Then from there we'll have a discussion on some of the resolutions that arise from that meeting. One of those is a call to action that was made by the AG. So we'll then agree on what needs to happen on each, or what has happened on each. Then it's also the assessment of the progress and implementation of the annual plans to support MPACs, which were by the Gauteng Provincial Treasury, Gauteng Provincial Government, Cooperative Government, Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, and Southern Gauteng Speakers Forum. And then from there, we will discuss the matter that has to do with the Companies Act, and it's applicable on the public entities. We've got our legal unit that is here that will help us engage with that discussion. And then from there, we close the meeting. We hope to be done by 1:30 for lunch, and then we leave. Thank you very much. That's the agenda. Obviously, I'm not going to ask if anyone moves for the adoption of the agenda because it's not that kind of a meeting, but if there's someone want to comment on the agenda. Okay, I don't see any comments, so we accept that the agenda is as is. Honorable members, chairperson, and distinguished councillors, you remember that the last time we had our meeting, so I'm moving to the report. The last time we had our meeting on the 30th, on the 30th of June, or 30th of May, if you can fly the report, please. On the 30th of May, it was a meeting that looked at a number of things. So just to confirm, why are they not fighting the report, please? Just to confirm that at that meeting, we had, if you can go to the meeting. No, in the report. I see it's not moving. Okay, let me do this. It will make my life easier if maybe I also put up the... I'm sorry about this because I think it will make it easier if I also put up the report here and follow it like it is. Okay, the meeting that we held, as I said, it was on the 30th of May 2023. At that meeting, we had received, the following were participants, and I know that there are some who have said that there is an issue with participation. We had, amongst others, all public accounts committees. The exception was Midval, which sent an apology, and Mfuleni local municipality. I think local Mfuleni, they were going to be appointing the chairperson on the same day, so that's why they couldn't attend. We know that you've noted that the city of Tshwane was not there, but the chairperson has raised a matter with me, so she'll be able to raise it when it's time to comment. At that meeting, we had also invited the Gauteng Provincial Treasury, the Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, and we had at the meeting also the Office of the Auditor General led by the Gauteng Business Unit Leader, Mr. Kulu. There was Mr. Mbulani Rambao, who was representing the Gauteng Speaker Forum, and the one represented there. The first report we received was from the Office of the Auditor General, which indicated that out of 25 auditees, which is 11 municipalities and 14 entities, there were 2 of these which showed improvement and 6. The summary is as follows. The City of Ekurhuleni Municipality and Midvaal Local Municipality sustained their clean audit opinions by maintaining good control and governance disciplines. The Rand West Local Municipality showed an improvement. There was declined quality of submitted annual financial statements, which caused regression at the City of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality, Mirafong Local Municipality, Mohale City Local Municipality, and Mfule Local Municipality. The quality of performance of reporting was still a challenge for most, and the lack of achievement of targets was contributing to lack of service delivery. Overall compliance has stagnated from prior financial years, with majority of auditees not complying with legislation. There was deteriorating financial health with repairs and maintenance below the required threshold, affecting aged infrastructure. I'm going through this report because I know that it was sent to you late, but also some of you were not there in the previous meeting, so that you can be able to note. Importantly to note as you go through the report is some of the things that we must follow up, because after this session we're going to then have a discussion on progress that has been made on each of these. On irregular expenditure, according to the Office of the Auditor General, there was combined irregular expenditure incurred in the 2021 financial year, which was for 6.46 billion rand. This resulted in the increase of irregular expenditure from 25.9 billion rand in 2021 to 29.4 billion rand in the financial year under review. Although irregular expenditure remains high, it is encouraging to note that auditees continue to receive goods and services, and no financial loss has been identified in the regular audit contract. There was therefore no material irregularities identified. There is still less effort of dealing with opening balances, and this is due to ineffectiveness of disciplinary bodies and backlogs of investigators or investigations, which are caused by vacancies in forensic unit in various municipalities. On unauthorized expenditure incurred increased from these numbers is 2 billion in the prior year to 5 billion in the current year, while the total balance increased from 14.2 billion rand to 19.5 billion rand in the current year. The current year unauthorized expenditure was mainly caused by overspending by budget, which was not approved. The incurrence of unauthorized expenditure depicts lack of financial management in terms of budgeting. The increase in balance is due to lack of efforts by auditees in dealing with prior years' unauthorized expenditure. On fruitless and wasteful expenditure, what the AG's office informed us is that this was incurred, there was an increase in what has been incurred from 1 billion rand in the prior year to 2.4 billion rand in the current financial year, and the total balance increased from 2.8 billion to 5.2 billion rand from the prior year. The fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the increase in the current year was mainly caused by interest on late payments by the Mfuleni City of Tshwane and unused licenses of the City of Joburg Metropolitan Municipalities. There were 3 new material irregularities identified where the related expenditure is already disclosed as part of the total of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. On the use of consultants, 164 million rand was the total cost of financial reporting of consultant, and 11 of those auditees, which is for 6%, used financial reporting consulting during the year. The reasons that we identified for appointing consultants was lack of financial skills, vacancies, and combination of the two. On the deteriorating financial health, 7 municipalities adopted unfunded budgets. This impacted on the delivery of capital projects. There was also poor revenue collection, which is still a challenge, impacting ability to service short-term debt and finance capex. There was limited availability of cash resources, impacting adequate spending on capex or capital expenditure to address service delivery needs. Key infrastructure assets not adequately maintained due to unavailability or limited cash resources, resulting in deteriorations of service delivery infrastructure. Increased water and electricity losses of about 3.2 billion of water losses, resulting in the loss of revenue. Budgeting for capital expenditure and spending on repairs and maintenance is not at the desired level for the metros. Aging infrastructure is definitely going to impact on service delivery. National Treasury, Provincial Treasury, and Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs needs to strengthen the in-year monitoring processes in financial and budgeting management. Going concern, issues were noted at Mfuleni, Rand West, West Rand, Sidibeng, Mirafong, and the City of Tshwane. High debt ratios of some of these metros. Legislation requires that the National Treasury must provide adequate support to metropolitan municipalities in implementing the budget circular as per the Municipal Finance Management Act 521A and B, and that the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs to timely intervene on financial health concerns as per the MFMA section 1361. On the accountability ecosystem, the report proposed that the accountability system, which defines the various stakeholders in the fiscal management and governance of municipalities. This includes support and oversight through influence by relevant provincial government departments and the provincial legislature. It also involves endorsement by decision makers at local government level. These are the executive, senior management, and officials. Several recommendations were made, and it's important to know these recommendations because these are going to be matter for our discussion later. Where material irregularities have been identified, MPACs must, 1, request the accounting officers to provide feedback or an update on the material irregularities reported in the audit report. 2, monitoring the progress of the action plans as committed by the accounting officer recommendations and remedial actions as issued by the Auditor General of South Africa. Timely intervention from the Municipal Public Accounts Committees where there is a delay in the implementation of planned actions or recommendations or remedial actions by the accounting officers. Ensure that disciplinary boards are functioning at local government level. Ensure that disciplinary, so it's a repeat of that. And then on the UIF, that is the unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Internal control should be improved to prevent the recurrence of unauthorized, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Responsible officials who incurred unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure must be identified, and the disciplinary processes should be completed. Fraud or criminal investigations must be instituted, and supplier contracts should be stopped where money is being lost. Then they also said that there is a need to strengthen the role of each partner in the accountability ecosystem on local government, fiscal management, and governance. Then there was a report by MPACs, so we allowed you yourselves to then tell us how far you are with tabling of your reports. I won't go through that because it's something that you would know yourself. It's summarized there. But to go to the next section, which is about the perspectives on the oversight of financial management, governance, and accountability, Gauteng SALGA. SALGA, I remember, made a presentation which had a lot of other things, the district development model and all that. But key to us here is that SALGA highlighted the following challenges within municipalities: that most municipalities are not implementing Section 32 of the Municipal Finance Management Act correctly or not at all. MPACs reports are not tabled in the Council for conclusion and resolution, which resulted in the amounts attributed to unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure being either static or increasing. There was inadequate investigation. Most municipalities have not established disciplinary boards to deal with financial misconduct. The following recommendations were made by SALGA. Municipalities ought to establish disciplinary boards that will investigate financial misconduct, synergize the relationship between the internal audit committee, Municipal Public Accounts Committee, and the disciplinary board. This is what they call the accountability quantum. The Auditor General calls it the accountability ecosystem. There's a need for partnership with civil society to strengthen public oversight, improved records management and accountability tool, deepen ethics management programs and structures through your ethics committees, intensify the fight against fraud, corruption, and maladministration, professionalize local government, and build the capacity of the sector. There was also a presentation by the Speakers Forum who indicated the things that they want to do. So we'll just focus on the second quarter. The second quarter, what they want to do is to implement consequence management and improve oversight on revenue collection. So this is the training they want to provide. The second quarter, as far as we understand, is from 1st of June up to the end of September. So it means later when we talk, you must indicate to us if this has already been done by the Speakers Forum municipalities. Second quarter, implementing consequence management and improve oversight on revenue collection versus implementation of post-COVID recovery measures. That's the training they're going to give you as MPACs. Then from the 1st of October to the end of December, they're going to give you training on improve oversight on irregular expenditure and improve oversight on grant allocations, expenditure management. Then from the 1st of January to the 31st of March, they're going to give you training on taking up recommendations by AXA and approach to disclaimers and qualified audits. There was then also the presentation by the Department of the Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and also the Gauteng Provincial Treasury. What they presented, they indicated the following status of MPACs and the reports. So you must take note of this because later we need to update this if the information is not correct. These reports provided progress on establishment of MPACs as indicated in the following table. So I won't read the table, but what is very clear is that all of them were established, and that the experience with when you look at the public accounts committees, the first column is the total number of members of the public accounts committees at the municipal level for each municipality. The second column is how many of them have experience related to oversight in council. The next one is how many are serving as full-time. Is only in the city of Joburg where there are 2, the rest is 1. And in the city there's no one. Then those who are serving as part-time. Then the next one is those who are serving in more than 1 committees. And then the support staff, how many support staff they have. All of them have got about 3 or 2, with the exception of CDBing that has got 4. Then the next thing they reported to us was the status of submission and approval of MPACs 2022-20. In fact, supposed to be 2022-23 annual plans, submission of terms of reference, and submission of the 2021-22 oversight reports as indicated in the following table. So the first column indicates that some of you had already tabled the report, some of you hadn't. I won't go into those details. I think you can read the table for yourself, sorry. And that there were terms of reference that you're supposed to submit. Some of you had not yet approved them. And that there was by a particular date, you should have tabled your reports. We'll get progress on that. And then approval of the 2021-22 oversight reports in terms of section 129. The only comment we have there is for the city of Tshwane, where it says the city is still busy with oversight report processing and may table the oversight report in June 2023. I think there's another comment also for Merafong, which was still awaiting a signed council resolution at the time. Mohale local municipality, the chairperson was going to be appointed in the council meeting on the 31st of May 2023, and only then the oversight report will be tabled for adoption. Then there were challenges that the departments, that is Gauteng Provincial Treasury and the COCTA identified. These challenges are the following. They said that municipalities still struggle to process the historic unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditures. No processing of unauthorized expenditures in some municipalities. MPACs are supposed to investigate if the reasons provided by administration pertaining to irrecoverability of UIFW expenditures are sufficient for these expenditures to be written off. Disciplinary boards established but not functional to investigate allegations of financial misconduct. Frequent changes to committees hamper the implementation of MPAC deliverables. instability in councils and committees, inadequate human and financial resources which affect the effectiveness of MPACs, slow investigations on unauthorized irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditures, non-compliance of MPACs recommendations by municipalities, non-implementation of MPAC recommendations by municipalities, especially where there are council resolutions. COVID-19 hampered the oversight role of MPACs, including submission of the oversight reports. Because at that time, the period that we're looking at, COVID was still an issue. To remember, it was the period that ended the 30th of June 2022. There was none or lack of reporting on MPAC work to the province for monitoring and provision of the targeted support. Due to limited to no capacity and resources, municipalities find themselves at different stages of implementing and institutionalizing ethics in their organizations, with a vacancy rate of about 56 or 57 management levels. Municipalities are also requiring renewed buy-in and commitment into the ethics program from leadership and management. There is a program that the Gauteng Treasury said they are undertaking, which is called Municipal Finance Hands-on Support Program, which is mainly intended to provide support to improve financial revenue and expenditure management in delegated municipalities. So they are not implementing it in all municipalities, but to some, to support local municipalities and ensuring the maintenance and strengthening of sound and financial governance, and also support the municipalities with the implementation of MSCOA. But what is MSCOA? Municipal Standard Chartered of Accounts. Thank you very much. To provide, that's why I don't like these acronyms. To provide hands-on support on technical financial management and provide institutional capacity. This is mainly achieved through the placement of technical advisors to municipalities. They also spoke about support they are providing to you to prevent the growth of UIF and W. They've got a project that is done by a consultant, and they've said that what is happening is that this is intended to address processes in place. They say that there are processes in place to identify, prevent, reduce, and report on unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. These include policies, standards, operating procedures, UIF and W registers and reports. Then they say there's development of the UIF and W expenditure reduction strategy in compliance with the National Treasury Circular 68, municipal financial management processes and procedures, municipal audit outcomes in order to address material findings in the area of unauthorized UIF and Ws, in order to improve the areas of qualification raised by the Auditor General, support and strengthen the municipal capacity to implement consequence management and recovery through supporting municipal public accounts committees, provide on-the-job training and workshop to identify municipal officials as well as MPACs or MPAC members. They also indicated support which they provide to strengthen MPAC to execute their oversight functions effectively and efficiently. Some of it is a repeat of what they've said, so I won't go into all of them, but it's more about training on a number of things, so particularly that has to do with oversight on UIF and W. Then they spoke about the roles and responsibility in respect of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And they're also repeating the same thing, but generally it's about defining your role as MPACs in that regard, which is to investigate UIF and W expenditure in an objective and diligent manner. To, after completed investigation, provide recommendations of the expenditure, and assist municipal council to hold administration accountable for the implementation of the UIF, of the unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure reduction strategy. There are programs that they said they are undertaking for you as members of the Section 79 committees, including MPACs, and I won't go through that, but they say that those programs are being undertaken. So there are already about 50 councillors and officials for NQF level 3, 50 for NQ level 4, for NQ level 5 is 50, and then there are 82 councillors and officials for accountability and ethical conduct. They also indicate that the department approached the cycle through strategic partnership to explore areas of collaboration. Cycle will develop a business case on, amongst others, UFW, to be used as a practical example during the MPAC training. Then they spoke about supporting you as MPACs on anti-corruption measures. They've got a lot of programs that they are implementing, which I won't go in through them. This includes about the implementation of the local government anti-corruption strategy. The support to municipalities is also done through the Municipal Integrity Project. We will move through all those things because there's also work they do together with, so it's both the COCTA and Treasury that are assisting you in that. Then on 8.9, they spoke about the role of MPACs and their responsibility to successfully deliver on the reduction strategy. What they require you to do is to address conditions that result in the slow investigation of UIF and W expenditure, be effective and instill order, institute investigation to determine if anyone is liable for UIF and W expenditure incurred and take the necessary corrective actions. Encourage all political and municipal leaders to support each other and play their roles in creating an environment that is conducive for good governance, accountability, and oversight. Enforce municipal regulations in financial misconduct procedures and criminal proceedings, including the establishment of the disciplinary boards. Not write off UIF and W expenditure without ensuring that losses had not been suffered or that any such losses cannot be recovered and that goods and services have been delivered. MPACs will investigate UIF and W expenditure in an objective and diligent manner, assisting municipal council to hold administration accountable for the implementation of the UIF W expenditure reduction strategy. They've made recommendations. They say in order to have a relationship that enhance the functionality of Treasury is in promoting and supporting effective oversight and accountability. The MPACs should invite provincial treasurers observers to its meetings where it discusses the Auditor General's report and the municipal budget implementation, where they also discuss the reviews and municipal budget implementation and also discussing reviews of municipal compliance to the MFMA. You must also invite Treasury or inform Treasury of the outcomes of the findings, especially where the municipality is in contravention of the MFMA. Then they've got what they call the clean audit strategy, Operation Clean Audit, which they are implementing. They expect that, because this is a joint thing with COCTA, with Gauteng Treasury, National Department of Cooperative Government Traditional Affairs, National Treasury, Office of the Premier, SALGA, Office of the Auditor General, Chartered Institute of Governance, which is SIGFARO, and other stakeholders. All the stakeholders play a key role in assisting municipalities with development, implementation, and monitoring of monitoring of municipal audit action plans, and that the committee is responsible for the following: assessing the soundness of the audit response plans to ensure municipalities develop credible audit response plans, monitoring progress made in implementing the approved audit response plan, as well as the progress made towards achieving clean audits, streamlining and aligning support to municipalities from various stakeholders, facilitating peer learning and sharing of good practice between the municipalities, and reporting to the provincial leadership of the national COCTA as and when necessary. They say that in doing so, I think the Auditor General maintained that this is due to the some of these things, the problems that we have here, are due to the failure of both leadership and management to fulfill their oversight function. The only viable solution, according to the Auditor General, is to improve the performance of local government is for leadership and management to set the tone by being more accountable and adherence to laws that govern the municipalities. Now, to move towards conclusion, the following challenges were identified by the Gauteng Provincial Treasury and COCTA: that there was frequent changes to committees which hampers the implementation of MPAC deliverables, instability in councils. I think some of them are repeated, so maybe I won't go through it because some were raised earlier. Now we come to recommendations which we spoke about ourselves here, and some of them came from the reports. Our meeting then resolved that SCOPA, MPACs, Gauteng Department of Cocta and Gauteng Provincial Treasury must be requested to consider and develop action plans to take forward the call to action by the Auditor General of South Africa based on the 2021-22 local government audit outcomes by ensuring, one, that the professionalization of local government must be supported and be aligned to the newly adopted framework and provide the committee with a progress report. I won't go into those. Okay, let me just explain. What we did is we took this report and these recommendations as the scope at Gauteng legislature, we send them to the departments for them to be able to do this work and report to us. So you'll see later we'll give you a report of what they say they have done. So when you see those the timelines you gave them to be able to respond to us. So I won't go through them as I read this. So the second recommendation that was our meeting, the last one on the 30th of May, was that vacancies must be filled with competent people, continued upskilling of municipal officials and council members, reduce reliance on consultants, and ensure skills transfer. Then the other one was the financial and performance management disciplines and preventative controls must be strengthened. And then the other one was that it is important to have stability in councils and strengthen municipal public accounts committees and disciplinary boards and provide, right, then they must give us the report. Number 5, the municipalities must derive full value from internal audit units and audit committees by implementing their recommendations. 6, that there must be coordinated and tailored support to struggling municipalities by coordinating institutions. 7, that members of the Executive Council, that is MECs for local government, must provide the quality of reports to provincial legislatures on municipalities' action plans and performance and provide us with the information. That there must be, number 8, that there must be a timeless resolution by provincial legislatures to these reports and tracking of implementation of resolutions. Number 9, that the councils and MPACs must improve implementation of the National Treasury guidance by dealing with unauthorized expenditure, unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, adopt National Treasury consequence management and accountability framework, monitor the state of material irregularities on a quarterly basis, and overseas resolutions. And then the number 10, that MPACs should strengthen the relationship with Gauteng Provincial Treasury by inviting the Provincial Treasury as observers in its meeting where it discusses the 3 matters that were identified. That MPACs should regularly inform the Provincial Treasury of the outcomes of the findings, especially where the municipality is in contravention of the Municipal Finance Management Act, and provide the committee with a progress report. In conclusion, the committee noted the presentations and expressed its gratitude to the AXA, Gauteng Business Unit, SALGA, Gauteng Speakers Forum, Gauteng Provincial Treasury, and Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs for their continued support in the Municipal Public Accounts Committees in Gauteng. That is our report of our last meeting. So we just need to comments from you on councillors in particular and honourable members. If it's a true reflection, maybe there could be something that you should be correcting. For now, don't give us progress on what has happened on matters. It's the next item on the agenda. It's just to deal with the report if it's covered all the issues and that it's a true reflection. I see a hand there. Remember to introduce yourself and then you tell us, you make your point. Now, I don't know why you're sitting, when you lead a delegation, you're sitting at the back. Because I expect leaders of delegations to be sitting here in front. But anyway, there's the hand. Roving mic, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Kulufelo Morodi. I'm the chairperson of MPAC in the city of Tshwane. I just want to make some corrections on the report. Tshwane was present in the meeting. We did sign the register and we've made we made a presentation during that meeting. Can that please be rectified? It's not a good impression. It doesn't create a good impression about us as a city that we did not attend, whereas we did indeed attend this meeting. May I request that that be rectified? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. That will be corrected. Any other comment? I assume then therefore that this is a true, I can't see the hand. Please raise the hand with me, not with the people who've got the mic. I'm the one who's gonna say to them, give the mic to so and so. Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. With the amendments or the corrections from the City of Tshwane, I move for, I'm saying the report is a true reflection of what transpired in that meeting. So I move for the adoption of this particular report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can hand the mic next to you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Chris Santana, City of Johannesburg. I also concur, second, the correctness of them.
Thank you very much. So we'll make those corrections or that correction and then we accept the report. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the most important reason why we are here. I would ask Mompati to take us through. We are going to look at our resolutions and see what progress has been made. We have asked the Department of the Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, together with Gauteng Provincial Treasury, to give us their progress. As you noted in the report, we gave them deadlines. So they've reported, we'll tell you what they've said. We want you to confirm if what they've said, you've seen it on the ground, or there are further things that you want us to take up, so that you can take up with them. Rampart, if you can take us through the first recommendation. We will take them one step at a time. So we'll take one recommendation, hear what the responses are, then we have a discussion on whether you think it's a true, what their responses are. You have seen them on the ground. Are they really satisfactory? Do you have issues with the responses? And you'll see that some of them are responses we want from you. Mompati, if you can take us through.
Thank you once more, Chair. The first recommendation, it reads as follows: that the professionalization of local government must be supported and be aligned to the newly adopted framework. The committee then received a response from Gauteng COGTA. The response reads as follows: municipalities are supported to professionalize their administration, in particular, human resource management departments. This is done through hands-on support and workshops to ensure that HR departments provide holistic services in a professional manner across the HR value chain. Also, the recently promulgated Local Government Municipal Staff Regulation 2021 seeks to professionalize local government with the development of norms and standards on organizational development and design, which refers to staff establishment and recruitment, selection and appointment of staff. Furthermore, the MSR promotes the cascading of performance management and development systems, as well as skills development planning. As such, municipalities are supported by staff establishments, job descriptions, recruitment, selection and appointment of staff, cascading of performance management and development system, as well as skills development planning in line with MSR. Municipalities are supported to professionalize their administration, in particular human resource management departments. This is done through hands-on support and workshops to ensure that HR departments provide holistic services in a professional manner across the HR value chain. I think I'm repeating the same response.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you. I realize that. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So that is what the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs is saying as an attempt to professionalize the administration. First, the question is whether you think this is the approach that we should be taking, or you've got a different understanding. Secondly, Have you experienced these approaches in your own municipalities? Are they really happening? Thirdly, what are they making any impact? If not, what interventions do you want? Are they going to assist us to improve the audit outcomes? Over to you, councillors. Start at the back. Don't forget to introduce yourself and then you make your comment.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to everyone. My name is Uchablano Rangwenya from City of Johannesburg, MPAC committee team. Recommendation number 1, I think I'll actually read it through in your format of question. 1, it's a good approach. 2, is it happening? In response to that is that, can we, in the city of Johannesburg, we have never seen it. I think my colleagues would be able to also emphasize of such. Also, in our last meeting, Chairperson, as a city of Johannesburg, through Chairperson Ispetlele Raserute, we've actually indicated that we want this training as bad as yesterday. We are still waiting as city of Johannesburg. So now, to your third question, the impact. As much as we are trying from the city of Johannesburg, we will actually love to get this training, and this training must not be on paper and financially not being seen to us. So we don't see it, however, we're making progress on our own. Thank you so much.
It would have also been helpful if you also indicated what progress you're making on your own, so that we can see if we can also use that to advise the Gauteng Provincial Treasurer and COCTA to also look at it. But you don't have to do it now. I'm saying maybe later. But if you want to do it, you can do it now. Any other comments? Honorable Kekan, and then...
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. We appreciate the response by COCTA. However, I find the response quite generic. I think we should actually, when we ask them, probably ask for details to say if they had provided training, they must tell us which municipality got which training, so that we get the details, so that we can also do an audit from our side to say, yes, Tshwane has received training on this date on such and such a topic, and Merafong has received this and this and that. So I think we need some detail instead of being generic to say they provided training. And City of Johannesburg have just said now that they have not received any training. So if they, according to the report, it's like they have provided training to everyone. So we need those details. Thanks, Chair.
Very much.
Thank you once again, Honorable Chair. My name is Councillor Musina, the chairperson.
You don't have to reintroduce yourself, Councillor Musina, because
I forgot the first time.
Okay, sure.
Yes, it's why I'm repeating it. Councillor Musina from Randwest City Local Municipality. I must say to us, it's a different aspect as compared to the city of Johannesburg. COCTA has been providing trainings for us, not only for officials, administration, maybe to correct that, also to us as councillors. And they've even went further. They've appointed a consultants called Bonakude. They've been coming to us in terms of making sure that they help us with everything in terms of the professionalization of our municipality. So I think in terms of us, they are doing, even if it's not yet enough, but at least they have started. We appreciate their effort. But maybe taking from the latter honorable member what she has just said, I think I'm supporting her. Let them give the chairperson the breakdown in terms of which municipalities and all that. Thank you.
Before the next speakers come, let's just, for now, we're just focusing on professionalization of the administration, because there is a recognition we took about capacity building for councillors or members of MPACs. So if you can just limit ourselves to that discussion for now. Honorable Mnyai, I saw your hand up.
No, for now, I won't contribute. I wanted to raise what you have raised now, that what you have asked is to deal with the professionalization, not any other issues for now. I think if we can align with your requirement, Chair, that will be of importance to the meeting.
Any other comments? Colleagues, there's a matter that I want to raise about professionalization. One of the things that we've discovered that it works in a number of instances is that, okay, let's start with what is the problem. So we normally appoint senior management in particular and some professionals through interviews. And then when they're in the system, they then, the process of monitoring their effectiveness sometimes doesn't exist. We only see it when the audit reports come and there's weaknesses and all that. So there's some discussions that is taking place, and I'm testing it here, that sometimes when it's better if we do have officials belonging to certain professional organizations which have certain standards they set, so that depending on your performance, they can be able to continuously measure you and be able to then come to us and say that according to the standard, there's no performance here. So there are such organizations or associations that are established which assisted a lot. I'm not sure if honorable members and colleagues think that that is something that we must look at together and see if we can push it well through SALGA and through the Gauteng Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs department, that they must look at, ensure how we can assist our senior officials in particular to belong to professional bodies, which if you don't perform, for instance, judges, for instance, magistrates, for instance, accountants, for instance, lawyers. So if you don't perform, you get struck off the roll. So something similar to that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I now know that the Public Service Commission of South Africa, the PSC, it's a chapter 9 institution, right? There's a bill that is before them. From the report they've given us is that bill is intended to, you remember currently in South Africa, the public service is only limited to national and provincial department officials, not municipal workers. So they are now extending that to mean when you say public service, it must also include those that are at the municipal level. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's a view that maybe the Public Service Commission also must assist, must play a role in the appointment of senior officials at the various levels of government. So in other words, whether it's your DG, your municipal manager and all that. And these are intended to ensure professional. I'm asking, what's the view of the meeting in us getting further into understanding those and then making our views heard on the platform? Over to you. Yes, no.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I support what you're saying and what you just said and commented on. I think that will go a long way in trying to resolve local government. And I actually can't wait until that sphere comes down to local government. I think it will solve many of our issues. And this whole professionalization of our entities and of our municipal is obviously something we as MPAC in the City of Johannesburg, and myself, is definitely driving. We need to get away from non-professionalized personnel. I think it also then supports all this wasteful expenditure that we're currently seeing. So I do support what you're saying, and I would love to get more information on these issues. And Chair, another request, can I also ask, serving on the committee, we did not get the reports and the schedules that we're going through today. A lot of impact committees in the government sphere, so we know when we come here, we know what we're dealing with as well. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, on your last point, yes, that's what we are beginning. That's why I took you through the report, because we acknowledge that we didn't send it to you in time. Secondly, on these recommendations, we thought it's unfair to send them to you when you don't have the report. So we'll go through them, but definitely after this meeting, we'll ensure that the report here is you get it as soon as possible. Maybe one thing related to that, maybe we must take a resolution also that we must invite the Public Service Commission to make a presentation to us on these initiatives. Even if it's going to be a virtual meeting, it's still fine. Shall we take that decision? Okay, thank you very much. Let's note it, and it's a measure that you must deal with agent, because I know that it's part of the consultative process for comment on the legislation itself. Any other comments on recommendation 1? None. If Chair, in your case, there was an example on how you deal with it, it would have helped us. But as we said, feel free to participate. If there's something you want to share with us, do so. So that's that. Okay, we'll move on to the next recommendation, Mampati.
Thank you, Chair. Recommendation 2, it reads as follows: that vacancies are filled with competent people, continued upskilling of municipal officials and council members, reduce reliance on consultants, and ensure skills transfer. The response by COCTA: the department is providing support on the filling of senior management positions, including other critical and technical positions in municipalities, in compliance with the MSR 2021. Municipalities are supported to align their human resource management policies to chapters 2 and 3 of the MSR, utilizing the competency framework on the appointment of employees. The progress on the filling of vacancies is tabled and discussed at the Intergovernmental Forum with municipal managers and executive mayors. Furthermore, the department monitors the appointment of senior managers in municipalities for compliance with the applicable acts and regulations to ensure that qualified, competent, and experienced managers are employed in municipalities, which may reduce the reliance of municipalities on consultants. Municipal councillors and officials are supported through various training and/or workshops. The department developed skills programs at NQF level 3, 4, and 5, National Certificate on Local Government Councillor Practices, NQF level 3, with 56 credits, Further Education and Training Certificate, Leadership and Development on NQF level 4, with 68 credits, and National Certificate on Public Finance Management and Administration on NQF level 5 with 107 credits. To date, 193 councillors and officials have been trained on the developed learning programs NQF level 3, 4, and 5. Councillors and officials are trained on accountability and ethical conduct and on NQF level 5. To date, 233 councillors and officials were trained on accountability and ethical conduct, which is NQF level 5. Organizational development practitioners and managers have been trained in organizational design based on an alignment of strategy, service delivery model, including the provision of facilitation skills. In instances wherein experts are appointed in different areas, the experts are expected to work closely with municipal officials to transfer skills. The transfer of skills takes different formats such as on-the-job training, workshops, and direct engagement with the experts during the duration of the project. Thank you.
So there are basically three issues here. It's about the filling of vacancies with competent people. It's about capacity of councillors and officials. It's also about the use of consultants. This response, have you experienced it in your municipalities? Is it adequate? Are there other suggestions, other interventions you want to make? Yes or no?
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to understand whether COCTA is only dealing with other municipalities and excluding metros, because none of this has come to the City of Johannesburg at this point. So I'm not sure whether they're starting at the bottom and coming up. And if so, what are the deadlines when this should be happening? Thank you.
At the back, I'm looking at more hands, then Honorable Mnyaye.
Thank you, Chair. As my colleague have indicated, Siakala, we want training as City of Johannesburg. Thank you so much.
Honorable Mnyaye.
No, I know if the City of Joburg, they didn't receive training, they should say so, because it's important for us to understand whether the councillors did not receive training even from SALGA, COCTA, and any other institution to give them capacity. Because the councillors, before they do their work, they must be, they must go under training. That's our understanding in South Africa. The second thing, I think they must also respond, whether not only for the councillors and also the officials. I know sometimes this initiative of training, we can find that the municipality is giving them bursaries and financial support to do as such, because each and, that's one of the reasons. But lastly, is there any excessive use of the consultant? Now, I think that's what we respond to as per requirement, Chair. I will appreciate that.
Yeah. Just to indicate that even, remember also SALGA was there in our last meeting, if just read the report. What comes out is that SALGA does have capacity building programs for councillors. And at the beginning of the year, of the term, they did conduct training for all councillors. Induction workshops, yes. So they did that. And I think what we are concentrating on is that if and the role they play, these are specialized committees. In addition to just oversight that is being given training, or training on oversight that is given to all other committees, there is an extra training or extra capacity that for public accounts committees because of the kind of work they are doing. So the question is really on that aspect. What kind of training is being done? And it would be clear that from our understanding, the Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance, together with the Gauteng Provincial Treasury, have committed to that kind of training. Now, it's clear that they say it has been done, but from the assessment, it would seem they are focusing mainly on local municipalities and not the metros. Or maybe they are still going to be undertaking the same training for metropolitan municipalities. It's something that is important that we must know. For purpose of oversight, it's important that in their reports there must be clarity as to where it has been done so that you can be able to monitor it accordingly. Is that our understanding, colleagues? Over to you, right at the back. We'll come to the matter of consultants just now.
Chairperson, the all the other trainings we've experienced from SALGA. However, the training that we are emphasizing on crying of here is the impact training type, which, by the way, it came through to us when we applied, we declined public training. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm sorry, I think I did a mistake. I was trying to say to the hand that raised it sharp, I'm noting you. It's like I was saying to you, stop. I'm sorry, that was not my intention. You can continue making your point.
I think I'm done, Chairperson.
Okay,
I'm
thank you
done.
very much.
Impact training.
Okay, there are two hands. There's one hand this side. There's another hand at the back there. Then the third hand is here.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, only question that I want to know.
Introduction, because you speak for the first time.
My name is Councillor Green from Rand West City Local Municipality. Only thing that I want to understand, because in some of the municipalities there's this monster of saying there's no funds. And then you mentioned something about bursaries. If the municipality doesn't have funds, is SCOPA able to assist in that matter? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. My input would be that as MPACs, we need to be proactive. I'll give you an example. As the City of Tshwane in January, when we received the adverse finding, we actually reached out to COGDA, to SALGA, to AGSA, and they all came on board to do specific training for members of MPACs so that we could be trained in terms of how we approach your Section 32 reports. COGDA is really, they've got very good programs that assisted our members, even in terms of the type of recommendations that we are making. Issues of case register. So I think as cities or as municipalities, we do need to also be proactive, write to them, and then they will provide you the type of training that you need based on your needs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Maybe before they move the mic from you, so that you help us as well. Section 32 reports, what kind of reports are those?
This is unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. This is in the MFMA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Much as we do learn that some of the municipalities might not have received training, my small advice to the councillors is that, and I'm not saying that they don't go through the MFMA, but I find it very helpful for councillors to read the MFMA like they are reading a Bible. It empowers a lot so that you familiarize yourselves with the prescripts of the MFMA. And if you understand the MFMA and all the regulations there, you are then able to effectively hold the departments to account. So it's just a friendly advice, Chair.
Thank you very much. I see new hands, but let me clarify the matter that was, the question that was asked first. That our understanding is that training is at 3 levels for professional training, basically. One, yes, your municipality must use its own funds to train. I'm not sure how it works, because there was a time when councillors in one of our meetings, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 years ago, where they indicated that there's a new gazette that questions that. I'm not sure if that's still applicable, but you'll explain to us. Then secondly, there's training that is provided by SALGA, and my understanding that SALGA itself pays for that. Colleagues will clarify here. It's based on the report they presented in our last meeting. Thirdly is that the Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, together with the Gauteng Treasury, have specific training that they conduct, which either it's about assisting with particular skill sets that is needed, or even for the future up to the NQF level 5. And they fund those. Currently, they've said they're doing about 50 councillors and officials that are going through that program. So those are the 3 levels. And obviously, as councillors contribute, because you know what's happening in your areas, you'll be able to also assist us to clarify those matters. I see two more hands, 1 and 2.
Thank you, Chair.
Start on your side. Start with him first. Yes, then it's you.
Thank you once again, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I would like to make a proposal to this esteemed House to say that maybe if we can take the approach of municipalities writing to your respective committee to indicate what kind of training have they received, especially those that are linked with the LGWCTA, the Sector Education Training Authority, because those, I think those are the ones that you've flighted on the screen, because they talk about the NQF, the National Qualification Framework levels, the NQF levels that I think my learned colleagues have been raising, that they are concerned about, that they have not received. There are other SALGA trainings that we've received from our side. We understand their frustrations. There are other SALGA trainings and National Treasury. They are also linked to the CETA, to the LG, the Local Government Sector Education Training Authority. But over and above that, CETA itself, all the CETAs from the payroll of the each municipalities, they are taking about 1%, even from the salary of each and every person who's based in the municipality. So that if you need training, there is a skills development officer within the municipality. You can make a request within the municipality to say, we need a kind of a training that will help us professionalize, for instance, MPAC. I think our skill development officer is doing good in terms of that, because there are trainings that he's been providing to not only my committee, but other departments like HR and all that, because as we've been monitoring, remember, we're not only playing oversight on only the executive, but also on various departments like itself, the skills department, the ones, the HR department. So hence we are able to trace that. Are they meeting their targets of making sure that as a skills development officer, are they meeting their targets within that particular department, which belongs to HR, that they are training officials, they are training councillors, because that's basically our money. So I'm requesting this House to say, let us submit reports to the Honorable Chair and the esteemed committee so that we are able to see which municipality is lagging behind, so that the Honorable Chair, when he writes to COCTA, then he knows which municipality to help. I think that's my submission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've been covered mainly by my colleague next to me. The issue obviously comes to the fact that previously councils have been excluded from the NQF levels, and that's part of the problem. We're giving the baseline in terms of what the subject matter is, but I do feel when it comes to members of MPAC, we actually need to broaden that scope. I think when we've taken away the qualifications for councillors, we've actually then disenfranchised what we wanted to do. We need to re-empower our councillors with education. As far as I know, when I made the submission or what I wanted to do, I think the next level was NQ6, NQ7. I asked for NQ6, NQ7, and nothing's come back on that. So we are not actually assisting each other when we are limiting where our qualifications need to play a role. And I do feel as this committee that we need to ensure that MPAC does get qualifications, and even further push that actually MPAC members become full-time, because the amount of UFWs we've got to deal with, we actually need to consider the role of MPAC, whether it does become a full-time councillor part, because we literally sit almost 3 times a week when we have to deal with issues, and that becomes unfair when legislated we actually part-time. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about consultants. From the reports previously is that all of you are using consultants, but for various reasons. Some is because there's no skill at all, some is because you need additional skills, and there's an issue that arises that when consultants are used, it's important that they also transfer skills. I'm not sure what comment you want to make on that one. There's always this view that we must try and avoid using consultants. Remember the Auditor General said that we spend a lot of money on consultant. What happens is that in a municipality, the CFO or the people in charge do the work throughout the year. But when it comes to producing the annual financial statements, they got consultants. And those consultants come, they don't understand the MFMA, they only understand the Companies Act. So they produce an annual financial statement based on that. And it doesn't cater for certain things, or other things are not reported properly. And then after we have spent 10 million rand on the consultants, you still get a qualified audit. So there is a need for us to, I think the issue is that we are not saying let's do our way, because we are not at that stage yet. But there's a need for us to ensure that when we use consultants, we use consultants who understand how municipal financial management are governed and how they must be accounted for. And that when they do come, they must ensure that the skills are transferred as well. But what is key is that there must be training of our finance unit, or whatever you call them, so that they can be able to be capacitated and ensure that they produce reports that are compliant. So that's where the departments are saying that they are trying to do something on that. That's what the report is about. I'm not sure what's your experience, or are there suggestions on what can be done on that? Honorable Mnyai?
Esteemed Honorable Chair, I'm keen to get a sense from our colleagues from Namibia. How do they respond to this question that you've raised? Is there excessive use of the consultant? Training? What is the state of the Namibia? How do they do it? Just to benchmark, you know, if there's a contribution that you can take home, you know, if it's possible, Chair. I don't want to put the leadership from Namibia under pressure in this regard.
No, I think you are putting them under pressure. I'll tell you why I'm saying so. You remember when the chair, in his opening remarks, he said, we had a discussion with him and the team and said, if at any stage they feel like contributing, they'll do so. So if they see that it's not time, they won't do it. So
I'm done, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Obviously, if there's experience, they are here to, the chair indicated they are here to hear what we do. They'll take what is good and leave problems with us. But then what they can share with us, they will do so. Okay. Okay, there's a hand. Let me just note it. And
yes, thank you. I'm Sebastian Ignatius Drops from Namibia. What I'm listening also happening here in South Africa is nearly the same what is also happening back home. For instance, you have got a municipal PAC. We in Namibia, whenever any reports are referred to us at the National Council as a house of review, we, the committee, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, are going out to different local authorities, municipalities. It's where we also encounter the problem of, firstly, the staff shortage, and then if there is no competent person appointed within the finance department, most of these local authorities are making use of consultants. That is not at all transferring skills. Sometimes the consultants are just coming to the local authority. They are doing their books in isolation without involving the staff that is in the finance department. And whenever the consultant is out, then still that institution is getting an advert or another report at the end of the day yet, because they were not involved at the end of the day within the process. And it's very costly to appoint year in and out and consultant. So you also recommend that competent staff must be appointed. Somebody who has got a know-how how to draw up a financial statement must be appointed within the finance department. Then they can do the statements themselves without, maybe the first year they can appoint a consultant, and then from the second year they can do their stuff on their own. That is the one. The other thing about the HR also, there were some recommendations, is that really, and HR is a backbone or any given institution. HR has to fit the other departments, for instance. HR has to see that competent, qualified people has been appointed at the end of the day, and so that these staff shortage sometimes are not occurring. But comparing to Namibia and South Africa, really you have got much to do. You have got a lot of work on hand. Your departments are too huge. Ours, for instance, at our local authority areas, some local authorities are just operating with 20, 25 staff members at the end of the day. So the area of operation are not that big comparing to South Africa. So those are, but now and then there are some staff shortages that are supposed to do the actual work at the end of the day. So that is nearly the same, but all in all, consultants really, they are taking a lot of money at the end of the day without transferring skills to the staff members who might remain at the institution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also wanted to add, and on that basis, I think now for the fourth or third consecutive year, since we have come in during our sixth national council, we have gone to the extent of piloting certain local authorities and municipalities because on their reports, adverse reports that they got, and then we go deeper, as my honorable chair is just doing with all these other things. But what we are doing, every year in our in our budget, we prioritize those 4 towns, and we go back every year and see to it, how far are they with these recommendations? Why did they not, as the chair is doing? And then what is it that we are trying to do? We wanted to know exactly, is it the problem of capacity? Because to me, or to us as a committee, when you sit with these people, especially the staff, and then you go into their qualifications, it speaks volumes. You only hear masters in accounting, whatever in accounting, and then for those people with a master's in accounting, just to do a simple reconciliation, it is difficult. He wants to be trained in doing simple reconciliation. And then you, as my honorable member have said, and then you are looking into HR. How was this recruitment done? On what basis do you recruit this person to be in this portfolio? Because for you as an accountant, you start with reconciliations and all these other things for your books to balance, because at the end of the day, your books must balance. But if you cannot do recons, if you are doing expenditures without supporting documents and all this, then one wonders, how can an accountant not do filing? Because filing is the problem, because you can get an adverse opinion because of filing. Your books your files are not properly done. There is expenditures going on, but there are no documents as proof. And these things really that is what is hampering. And whereas my chair is presenting here, and just sitting very quiet and say, oh, he's going through the same problems as we are going through. And us as Namibians, we regard as younger brothers of South Africa. And then we hope that as we are going to sitting here, we should get better and learn from. But now we are at the same level, but don't worry, in conclusion, we might say one or two things, but those are the things that we are struggling with. And that is the thing, and yours are big money, because I could see here when my chair was presenting 30 billion unrecorded for, 30 billion. And at times, you at the local authorities, I was in Oshakati, it's a town in the north of Namibia, also attending and presenting a speech at a workshop organized by the Office of the Auditor General. Us sitting in municipalities always blame central government of not delivering services. But we are the ones that are doing really a big harm to central government because we are directly working with the masses. And if services are not delivered, it's not central government that is not delivering services, it's the municipalities. And if you have people that does not have capacity in your municipality, who's doing the harm? And these people are coming from political parties. But yet, political parties are blaming central government. Thank you very much.
Chair, I concur what you mentioned with regards to where we should be going with consultants. But I think it comes back to the Public Service Commission now starting to get into the local government space. And I think once we get that correct and professionalize local government, hopefully we will get rid of the political interference, which is obviously plaguing the professionalism within our municipalities. Hopefully one of these days, like you've given us councillors, that we can be criminally charged for not attending council. Maybe there should be a criminal charge if there's interference in terms of HR matters with regards to HR issues. It should be competent people applying for these positions. And it's very sad if you tell me that a master's in accounting can't do a reconciliation, maybe he should go back. But it is sad. I mean, we do need to professionalize these issues, and that's our stance as well. We are trying to push for that. I think it is something that you know me, Chair, that I've been trying to say to you. We're trying to hit that door down and saying it's time for the change, that people need to be professional. I've mentioned it to you as well. I still think there's a space where government has to have the same regulations and requirements as the JSE companies for our SOEs and MOEs. Cannot be that the money just disappears and there's no accountability. And I think that's where we need to be driving. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, before they comment on your last one, we'll discuss it later, so let us not comment on it. Yeah, so maybe we should also bring back one of the thinking we had. You remember one of the things we said, we proposed at some stages that where a consultant has been used to produce annual financial statements, and then the AG finds that there's a finding with that, those consultants must not be paid. So their payment must be aligned to performance. So it's something that we might want to note in our report, and is something that we take forward. This is also linked to maybe we should find a model or a system we'll use of transferring of skills. If we appoint you as a consultant, as an example, for 3 years, we must agree that once we do the whole work in the first year, the second year we must see results that 50% of our staff is able to do the work, and the third year 100%. If we can't reach that, payment will be aligned to that. Something like that. I'm just making an example. There are some things you might want to look at. Are we agreed? Are we agreed? Yes. In council, don't you say agreed? Oh, you say order. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the third one. Mumpati.
Recommendation, Chair, that financial and performance management disciplines and preventative controls must be strengthened. This one, Chair, is supposed to be responded to by MPACs in this meeting. Thank you.
Just go back to it so that there's clarity. Remember, you've got the responsibility. When I say you, it's including ourselves. We've got the responsibility of oversight on financial management and performance. So we need to remember the Auditor General of South Africa has challenged us that what is the point of us looking at ex post facto when in fact you can play a role in oversight on preventative controls? The question that the commission we made that, are we capacitated to do this? How do we do this? How do we ensure? Have you already started as MPACs to do this? Or we can even give you a chance to go back and discuss it amongst yourself and see how we can be able to implement this. Yes, Chair. Those who are assisting us with roving mic, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, on this one, it's kind of a quagmire. I don't know, should I say a political or a kind of a legal quagmire for our committees, and I'll give examples on two folds. Hence, I'm saying political and legal. On the legal part, the law is tightening us, especially these local government regulations that National Treasury is always sending to municipalities. And even the MFMA, the Municipal Systems Act itself, in terms of our limitations as councillors. What is happening is, Chair, we cannot play a role of preventative oversight over the administration. We want to, but when we do that, they say we interfere. For instance, Chair, you'll realize that a tender, for instance, of 100 million rand, it will be advertised, and the law is very clear, it should be advertised for 21 days. But, you know, we are unable to monitor that. The officials at the supply chain management unit, they are doing exactly that. They will advertise it for 15 days, deliberately, because they want to exclude other people. Because, you know, they are sort of that's what we suspect. And when the Auditor General comes, it will be flagged as irregular expenditure because the law was not followed to the letter. Now we are unable to go and sit with them to check whether they are complying, because we'll be told that councillors are interfering. That's where our problem rises. So we are unable to play that particular role. So it's very difficult. We want to, but we are unable. So we are like treated like fire brigades. When already things have been done, then we must run around and go prepare reports that this and that and that. And we must go present them at council. These things, they can be avoided. Sometimes the law, they over-regulate. I don't know, is it deliberate from National Treasury? Because if they can say, look, we can come there as observers. When they read those tenders, we are saying nothing. We will go and say it we'll write them from our committees. We can come as observers, look at what they are doing at supply chain. If we are not satisfied that there's a tax clearance certificate within the documents, then we'll advise council that as committees, that look, these people at supply chain, we've sat with them, we were observing. Now we are not allowed even to sit with them, with the bid adjudication bid, you know, all the bid committees, the bid committee and the bid adjudication committee. Because if I can go there, I'm telling you tomorrow I'm going to be charged criminally to say that you are not following the code of conduct of councillors. But I'm expected, sitting here as a chairperson in my committee, to play an effective oversight role or a preventative. How am I going to do that? I just wanted to highlight on that preventative role that councillors are limited in terms of, it's why officials are playing with us. They are playing with us, they do as they wish. Hence, you see today, as we sit there, we are investigating irregular, fruitless, wasteful expenditure of about 2.3 billion rand in one municipality.
Okay, maybe so that we can just be focused on our on this. It's clear that it depends on at the level where this can be practiced. Let me give a practical example. At provincial level, there's a debate that portfolio committees are supposed to play this role because it is them that look at the plans of the departments, which we call the what do you call them? APPs, annual performance plans. They look at them to see that they are correct and everything, they'll be effective. Then they monitor on a quarterly basis their implementation. And I'm saying this because I want you to follow the same and put your mind on what's happening at municipal level. But then the question is, what we're talking about here is not just on programs, it's on financial controls. Capacity of portfolio committees to monitor implementation of financial control is the question. So what we're saying is that there's a need for public accounts committees to then first assess at the beginning of the financial year if the financial controls that are proposed by the accounting officers, are they proper, are they going to be effective? And so it must be, public accounts committees must be capacitated to assess those. But then they must also be capacitated to track implementation throughout the year. So that's what this is calling for. So the question is, this is from our understanding, this is something that the Auditor General is introducing. Maybe we should agree here as this team that we need as a team to engage in a thorough discussion on how we implement, how we exercise oversight and preventative controls, and maybe conduct several workshops amongst ourselves, develop this and have a clear understanding, because it has got also to do with capacity. If you don't understand financial controls, for you to understand them, first of all, you must understand the general financial systems. Some of us, including myself, I represent my party. I might not know anything about accounting because I'm just a politician. So you need people who understand that, because so that you can be able to be guided properly as councillors, as members of provincial legislature, on what are the implications, what it means, so that you can then be able to monitor it properly. So my proposal to this meeting is that, why don't we extract this as a priority, that we then, with the assistance of relevant structures, even the Auditor General, they train us on conducting oversight and preventative controls. There's one hand, then you.
Chair, I hear what you're saying, I concur. So in order to resolve the matter that you're speaking about now, what I want to try and do together with our impact committee when we get to our terms of reference is actually ask going forward, because this continuous thing where we're paying reactive versus proactive, is to ask that we have quarterly engagements with internal audit committee. Where are we in our first quarter? Where are we in our second quarter? What are the things coming to light in terms of non-compliance? Because what we're currently dealing with is by design. I'm going to be honest with you, it's by design. Hence why corruption is allowed to go where it's going. We are still writing off amounts from 2010, the World Cup. Okay. And now if I look at it from where we stand, how is we as the committee able to take corrective action, take people for disciplinary, take people for financial misconduct, when possibly it may be that in terms of legislation, in terms of the courts, we've passed the 10 years, so we can't do anything. Prescription in terms of 3 years, we can't do anything. Or do we adopt the attitude that that prescription date only applies to the day that it comes to MPAC? These are the things that we need to have the honest conversation with each other. Because again, I'm saying it's by design. Officials are holding back information in order for these delay tactics to play out and only come 2 years later when the persons have left. So we need to try and change what we're doing, which is then why I'm saying I need support on trying to going, we want quarterly reports from all the relevant parties that play a role in terms of our financial statements. It's GRAS, it's group performance, GPAC. All of those guys need to come actually report to to MPAC on a quarterly basis. This thing where we see them 9 months after the year and doesn't help us. I thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And I want to fully agree with what you've said, how you summarized it, because that's exactly what I was going to say. But also agree with the councillors to say, I actually empathize with them, because they are operating in a very difficult space. And I know the municipalities are highly regulated. And Councillor is correct. Code of conduct does not allow you to sit in the bid adjudication committees, because if you do and you insist on doing that, you can be charged. But I want to say that the councillors should be able to distinguish between interference and intervention. And that boils down to monitoring of internal controls, as you said, and asking departments very difficult questions. Don't spare them. You should be able to grill them and make sure that those internal controls are in place and get a regular update as to how far they've gone in certain aspects of the internal controls which are lacking. So that should be a discussion, and they must be able to distinguish between the interference and the intervention as requested by the Municipal Systems Act and Structures Act. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we can close it there. One of the things we'll do with immediate effect or as urgent as possible, engage the Office of the Auditor General to have a workshop with all of us, even if it's virtual, on implementation of oversight on preventative controls. Agreed? Thank you very much. Next one, Mbadi. Recommendation 4. There are about 11 recommendations, so in the next 40 minutes we would have done all of them. You can, those of you who would like to have some tea, you can go grab tea and come out, but please don't leave all at once. Thank you very much. Just go ahead, Mbadi.
Thank you, Chair. Recommendation number 4, it reads as follows. That it is important to have stability in councils and strengthen municipal public accounts committees and disciplinary boards. The response by GPT, Gauteng Provincial Treasury, reads as follows. Regarding strengthening of the MPACs and disciplinary boards, GPT continues to provide support with interpretations of Section 32 of the MFMA, read together with MFMA Circular 68, as and when requested by the municipalities concerned. Furthermore, GPT is monitoring compliance with the municipal financial misconduct regulations on a quarterly basis, shares their findings and recommendations with the municipalities to enhance the level of compliance with the said regulations. The response on the same recommendation by COCTA reads as follows. MPACs are supported through various trainings. Accredited training is provided and is pitched at different NQF levels, that is NQF level 3, 4, and 5. This includes programs on ethics and accountability. MPACs are consistently trained in various other skills programs. On the functionality of municipal councils, the following was observed in the responses from municipalities in respect of the monitoring tool. Municipalities provided limited information over the 3 months, which is April, May, and June of 2023. 3 motions of no confidence were recorded in April 2023. Municipal reports suggested that no challenges were experienced in the respective councils and identified committees, and hence no support interventions were identified. During the reporting period, the MPs considered no reports, and matters dealt with in meetings were recorded as procedural. For example, the TOR, the rules, and the meeting schedules. Limited information has been provided in respect of programming committees in all municipalities. Municipalities recorded no transgressions and actions taken in respect of the councillor code of conduct. In June, speakers of council were introduced to the Code of Councillor Regulations 2023 and the reporting requirements in terms of Regulation 10. Speakers will be required to report on the period 1 July 2022 to 31. In terms of the regulation and circular, these are to be submitted to the province before 31 July 2023. To date, No municipalities have complied with Regulation 10. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any comments about stability in municipalities and the strengthening of the MPACs and disciplinary boards? This is what the departments are saying they've done and the concerns they've raised. Do you concur? Honorable Mnyai?
I think there's a new phenomenon in South African political landscape, which sometimes it could be good and sometimes can be disruptive. The issue of the coalition. I'm just raising that broadly without, in addition to those that have been raised by department.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, so let's agree as follows. I'm looking, there are no hands. The problem of stability, there's very little we can do about because it's a political thing. I mean, political parties are, that's what they do. They fight for space. We know now that there are attempts by the Deputy President, although it's at a national and provincial level, to try and come with interventions which will be applicable after the next elections. But we are now told that there is a possibility that they might look at what interventions are going to be made at a municipal level. So for now, our concern is mainly about this affecting the audit outcomes or the financial management and governance. And one way to try and deal with it is that we must also ensure, I think, that on a quarterly basis we receive reports. And the good thing with you as municipalities, if I'm correct, you do receive quarterly reports, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Unlike us, those that just go to portfolio committees, not to SCOPA. And that one of the things that we kept on saying in these meetings is that we must move from the stage where public accounts committees rise above politics. And that our interest is the implementation of in your case, the Municipal Financial Management Act and the relevant treasury regulations, and in our case, it's the implementation of the Public Finance Management Act and the relevant treasury regulations. Lastly, is that one of the biggest problems that the public accounts committees face, and particularly at the municipal level, given all these other things, are the consistent changes that are happening in the leadership of those structures. Just as a survey, let's just find out by show of hands. The councillors, remember the elections were in 2021. Who are the councillors who have been members of the MPAC from the time that it was established the first time in your municipalities up to now? If you were, just raise your hand. Okay. You can put it down. Who are the councillors who became members of MPAC after there were some changes in the MPAC itself? If you can raise your hand. Okay. So the rest of those who didn't raise their hands, what does that mean? They are not yet members of MPAC. Okay, let me repeat the question. As soon as elections took place in November 2021, you went through a stage of establishing MPAC. Some of you established in January or February or something like that. So first time established. So I'm saying from that time up to now, there are some of you who have been members of the MPAC from the first time after the elections in 2021 up to now. So I'm asking, can those raise their hands? Okay, thank you very much. Now the next question is, there are those of us who were not members of MPACs at the beginning, but became members of MPAC either last week or last month or 6 months ago, but after the initial establishment. Can you raise the hands? Okay, now thank you very much. So there's a comment that was made by the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Tsinoli. She put a challenge out there. I'll circulate that to you. She says, he says that there is a need to ensure stability in municipal public accounts committee, in the public accounts committees, whether it's municipal or provincial or national, because of the role that they play. And the challenge is with the political parties, because it's them who deploy members into committees rather than anything else. There's an interesting experience, Chair, with the Parliament of Benin. So we were sitting next to the members there, we had a discussion. So I asked them how their public accounts committees are established. This is how they are established. They say, it's not only public accounts committees, all the committees. What they do, after elections, all members submit their CVs. Then a committee is appointed it's a multi-party committee, it's a selection committee. It's appointed to look at the CVs. And based on your CV, then they deploy you to a committee. So you might find that in a particular, let's say a public accounts committee, you have people who understand public finances who are there. So that's how they do it. But unfortunately, obviously, there's one thing that they make sure also that party proportional representation is there. But the issue that I'm raising is that some of us, me included, get to be deployed in a committee because of my credibility, my political party. Sometimes I get to that committee, I don't even understand the issues there. We've got an example of a doctor who's leading matters of community safety. So those are things that we must be able to look at and in our systems to say that we need to, obviously when people have been allocated committees, it doesn't just stop there. It also needs, you still need to be capacity, even if you already understand matters, because this field of public accounts is evolving over time. So what we'll do exactly that. We will ensure that there's work done around that. I'm not sure if there's any other comment before we move to the next recommendation. Yes, Chair. I'm worried that I hope you understand, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Let me just say, because when the report was, hold on,
I went to the restroom. No, Chair, I understood you very well. I just wanted to say, it's in addition to what you've just said, to say I know in your heart you're going to speak with regard to the National Association of Public Accounts later. This thing of collusions that you are talking about, that you've mentioned that they have identified problems. It has even affected us. I know this animal, you are the one who spearheaded it in Bloemfontein in 2017, that there should be a National Association of Public Accounts. But due to these changes on MPAC, we cannot carry on because you'll put people on that committee. The next thing, they are out. So I just wanted to say, I know it's very close to your heart because you spearheaded it while you are still called APC, Association of Public Accounts. Now you are SAPEC.
Okay, you've confused a lot of people. You know why? You know why? Because it's not a matter of discussion. It's out of context. So when we discuss it later, they'll understand you. Okay, sure. Let's move to the next one. There's another hand. I don't see. Please raise your hand proper so that I can see it. There isn't. Okay, there's no other hand. Let's go ahead. Yes, there's a question here. Just hold on, Chair.
I don't know, is it a question? I'm sitting here and wondering the instability in the Public Account Committee and then of municipalities, and then you also will say the instability in the whole council is in it, because it's not it cannot be one committee that is not stable, it should be the whole council. And then one wonders why does it happen that there is instability in the council. Because at the end of the day, whether you are from how many parties that are in council, the main purpose of the council is to deliver services to community. And if you have the interest of the community at heart, there should be a way that you come together and try to deliver services. Public account is only monitoring that finances within that municipality is well spent. And that is why Chair is also trying to come up with preventative measures before anything happens. And that would also not be something very difficult. Everywhere where we are coming from, we have coalitions. And when there is problem with our coalitions, leaders of political parties are called in, and we sit around the table and we iron out that matter so that services can go to peoples. Because that is, whatever is happening here, the president or the vice president of a particular party and then the other party should come together and say, our peoples are suffering because of what we are having here, and then solve that issue with immediate effect so that service delivery can prosper at the end of the day. That is, so one is wondering why the instability, and I also sitting here and soliloquying and saying, what does the Act say? Councillors, who is in control of the council? Is it the administrators or is it the council? Someone is the boss of the other one. And if you are the boss of the other one, and what is my Honorable Kekana have said, there is a distinct difference between interfering and intervening. And council is there to intervene. And if council is not, because now you are talking of training, as we are sitting here, you want to be trained. Training for you to know how to intervene, isn't it? You are not trained for any other thing. You are just trained for, as a councillor, you should know where and how to intervene. And there is no other way. If councillors are not intervening, and then the whole local authority will be destabilized. And that is what I'm thinking. What does your law say? What does the Act, local or what the Municipal Metro Act says in you being a councillor, and how do you intervene? And this public account committee within the municipality, how autonomous are they? How independent are these committees? And what is their mandate? Because your mandate, which speaks on how you should operate. And I want to know that mandate of that committee within a municipality or local authority, whatever you call it, a metro. Then that should give you a direction on how you should operate. Thank you very much.
If I can just hear the chair here in the back there.
Thank you, Chair. I think our input here would be that, South Africa should be at that stage where we must accept that coalitions are the future. They are here to stay, and we are going to be in an unpredictable situation. But what we can do is to build systems that are able to operate beyond the individuals. Because I'll give you an example. So if municipalities have proper systems, proper SOPs that allow for reports to flow from the committee to council. If we've got proper systems in place, it doesn't matter who is the chairperson at that time. It can change every week. What we need to do as MPACs is to make sure that we've got proper systems in place, because life is unpredictable. Tomorrow I can drop dead, but MPAC has to continue. They can put someone else in place. But if we've got a system or proper SOPs that are in place, then work will continue without the people there. We shouldn't. It's actually, I think, as a country going forward, when you look at countries like Israel and Ireland, and them, they've got, you'll find the coalition government has 11 coalition partners I mean, every government can change every 3 months, but what we need to focus on and put all our energies in is creating good systems that allow things to operate beyond individuals. And we have seen that in our government as well. Just because you've been a minister for whatever 5 terms does not guarantee that you are effective. You know, sometimes you might be the problem impeding progress. So I think this is change, we must embrace it, but let us build proper systems so that we can operate beyond change in government. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just to also respond to the question by the chairperson here next to me, is that the public accounts committees in South Africa operate in the same, or they've got the same mandate like the one you outlined in your when you addressed us here. In fact, there was a problem at the municipal level until a new regulation or new act, the act was revised, and they are now called Section 79S. Ne? A. So what it did, the act, what they did, they then took exactly what you've just read and incorporated it into the act for municipalities so there's clarity. And they also clarified issues of who can be a member, like the speaker can be a member, the member of the executive. So the mandate is the same. The problem is implementation or carrying out of the mandate. There are 2 issues that the Auditor General raises when they refer to the issues of instability. First is instability within the administration, where either positions are not filled or they are filled and people are removed within short space of time. So that's what instability is. And it was said that in most cases, not in all, in most cases, that instability is a result of instability of council itself. Because if there are continuous changes, also they bring uncertainty within the administration. And that's what we also need to deal with. But to answer you directly, yes, this instability in committees, not only in public accounts committees, but it's also in other committees as well. The challenge we have is the capacity to ensure that even with those instability, like the chair from Tshwane say, even with those instability or changes, let me use the proper word, changes, how to ensure that the systems remain and do what they're supposed to do. And that's the challenge we have. And that's why we're saying that if we can all be trained, that is when I say all, us as public representatives and also as administration, if we can be trained on the effective implementation of either the MFMA, the PFMA, or FAMPLA, some of these can be overcame, eliminated, yes. So it's very important. But we'll look at that, and it's something that we have to look at. Shall we move on to the next resolution? Compati? Yes, there's a hand, yes. Over to you.
Chairperson, I must say that government of local unity in the city of Joburg is stable. We can learn from that. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Next resolution, yes. I'm trying to bring us back to discussing what is before us, because you see you've got a lot of political animals here. It's easy that the discussions could turn into something else. So we've defined the stability as defined by the AG. So we'll stick to that. Yes, Honorable Kekan?
No, Chair, maybe on a lighter note, it's just to say that I think councillors must refrain from playing politics in committees and focus on service delivery, as the Chair has said. And I'm sure most of you were there yesterday at the legislature sitting. You might have observed the environment and how other political parties operate. But as the majority party, we expect even smaller parties to contribute positively towards the upliftment of the citizens of our province. Not to play politics and be petty and do all those theatrics that you observed. It does on a lighter note. If we can desist from that, I'm sure we can be very progressive. Thank you.
A very heavy lighter note, but it's fine, yeah. Let's move on to the next recommendation.
The next recommendation, Chair, it's recommendation number 5, that municipalities must derive full value from internal audit units and audit committees by implementing their recommendations. The response by GPT. GPT performs oversight and monitor compliance on internal audit units and audit committees in accordance with sections 165 and 166 of the MFMA, respectively. Municipalities are thus encouraged to develop and adhere to their internal audit and audit committee charters, as well as institutionalization of best practices in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Municipal Finance Management Act and Municipal Finance Management Act, Circular 20. I noticed that it's not reflected on the screen.
Yes, if it can be reflected, yes.
Okay. For the purposes of enhancing good governance, audit committees are required to systematically review progress against audit recommendations and agreed action plans. This ensures that a clear message is sent to management and staff that these matters are important and are being reviewed at the most senior levels in the organization. Furthermore, GPT reviews the effectiveness of the audit committees on a quarterly basis. In measuring the functionality and the effectiveness of the internal audit activity standard 1300 quality assurance and improvement program of the international standards for the professional practices of internal auditing was utilized. A quality assurance and improvement program were designed to enable an evaluation of the internal audit activity conformance with the standards. The audit committee's effectiveness was assessed in line with the requirements of the Municipal Finance Management Act, Circular 65, the King Report 4, and National Treasury Internal Audit Framework. Sound municipal governance is dependent on effective and accountable governance structures. An effective internal audit function contributes towards good governance by reviewing the control environment, risk assessment, and governance processes, which alleviates inefficiencies and promotes fiscal discipline. Then on the same recommendation, this is the response now by COCTA. Operation Clean Audit on Provincial Coordinating Committee was established in terms of Section 21, subsection 1A of the IGR Framework, 13 of 2005, as directed by the Minister of Cooperative Governance to achieve clean audits. The committee is constituted of COCTA, Gauteng Treasury, SALGA, Auditor General's Office, and professional bodies involved in the municipal finance arena. COCTA convenes quarterly workshops on behalf of the committee. The purpose of the committee is to ensure proper accountability and governance of the provincial Operation Clean Audit project, as well as to ensure compliance and adherence to key financial management reforms contained in the relevant legislation and regulations. It is further aimed at improving communication, planning, and coordination in the implementation of the financial management and service delivery reforms as required in terms of the legislation, but simultaneously aims to prevent duplication of efforts. This in turn should result in interventions to improve governance and service delivery so that government gets better at achieving the outcomes over time. The committee supports municipalities to address issues raised by the AXA through the Operation Clean Audit Provincial Coordinating Committee workshops. This is done in conjunction with municipal internal audit units as they verify the information reported by the management of the municipalities. In addition, a technical committee constituting of municipal managers, SALGA, COCTA, GPT, and AXA has been established to deal with technical issues that arise during the audit by the AXA. SALGA convenes the committee on a quarterly basis. The department also monitors the effectiveness of internal audit units and audit committees by participating in the audit committee sittings of the municipalities.
There's the work that is being done both on ensuring that the recommendations of the internal audit and the audit committees are implemented by you, and also in ensuring that using the Operation Clean Audit campaign to ensure that the work is done. What's your comments? Honorable Miyai?
Thank you, esteemed Honorable Chair. I think this is the mechanism, this structure that made Gauteng to receive improved audit outcome, as you said in your opening remarks. Some departments received, almost 6 departments received clean audit in the provincial government. However, the challenges remain within municipalities to receive that similar clean audit. And it will be imperative to understand from municipalities how do they have the similar system as per guidance of the chair and the minister? I'm sure that will assist us, Chair.
Maybe let's ask it differently, Honorable Mnyai. This is what our provincial departments say they are doing to assist municipalities. So the question is whether are MPACs seeing this? Is this making an impact? Is this the approach we should be taking? So they've now given us one thing that I think we must follow up on, is what Honorable Kekana said earlier, that they must also indicate to us that they say they've done this, but where, in which municipalities? And what also, we need a report that says, what is the impact? Because you can go and do work, then it's just compliance, malicious compliance. We need the impact. Are these interventions making an impact? But let's hear from municipalities themselves. Unless you say, yes, we've seen this, and you agree with the report. Okay. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move to the next one. Next recommendation.
Recommendation 6, that there must be coordinated and tailored support to struggling municipalities by coordinating institutions. Response by GPT, to provide coordinated and tailored support to struggling municipalities. GPT established a Gauteng Municipal Finance hands-on support program aimed at improving the efficiency and effectiveness in financial management, monitoring and implementation of the MFMA in Gauteng municipalities. The purpose of the program is to support the municipalities with the overall implementation of the MFMA, whilst also seeking to instill financial management and governance maturity in municipalities. GPT appointed 10 municipal advisors during the 22-23 provincial financial year, and these advisors have been placed in local and district municipalities in the province. The advisors are there to provide support to the municipalities in the areas of budgeting, revenue and expenditure management, accounting and auditing, as well as the implementation of the Municipal Standard Chart of Accounts, SCOPA. The response by COCT on the same recommendation, the department is implementing a differentiated regional support plan as part of the local government support and monitoring model adopted in 2020. The municipal specific support plan has been developed, coordinated and tailored for implementation based on the challenges for all 11 municipalities in the province. The specific tailored packages to support the municipalities include the following: deployment of revenue experts to develop and implement the simplified revenue management plans, provision of labor relations experts to address labor-related matters. CAPEX war room is established to accelerate CAPEX and address spending bottlenecks identified, and professional services are provided to targeted Gauteng municipalities to resolve unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditures. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Those are the what are called coordinated and tailored support to struggling municipalities. Do you agree with this report? Yes.
1, 2.
Thank you, Chair. This is where I'm going to raise a big issue that we are suffering in the city of Johannesburg. As far as our understanding was that we were all supposed to be MSCO compliant on the 1st of July 2018. The city of Johannesburg is far from that. I know what the report to National Treasury says we're going to be around about 40% before the end of the year. We have not moved that scorecard in the past 20 months. We're still sitting on 15%. I'm asking this committee formally in this meeting, there needs to be an intervention because we are not getting where we need to be in terms of the MSCO compliance. And there doesn't seem to be any will to get that moving either. The reports that we keep on getting indicating it's just not moving at all. And that's not good for us because it has multiple effects in the sense that our reporting is always late. There is always some issue because of the data strings and the non-MSCO compliance, it's done manually, and it just poses endless problems for us. So we do need an intervention from SCOPA to deal with that matter. National Treasury, COCTA, and I'm going to be blunt and say it out loud, we are being lied to.
Before you pass the mic, what do you mean by intervention?
Well, there's supposed to be certain deadlines with regards to our implementation of this project. Those are not being met. Like I said to you, we should be at 40% already. We're not. We've indicated to National Treasury that we'll be compliant by next year, 30th of June 2024. At the current rate that we're going out, that projection has been pushed out to 2028. So we actually need, when I say an intervention, we need all spheres of government on board to ensure that compliance happens. I mean, being the biggest metro and the economic hub of the city of Johannesburg and the country, it actually needs to be dealt with. It cannot be where it's flip-flops and there's no intervention. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Before I take the second, it looks like there's a follow-up, Honorable Kekan.
No, Chair, this is just a question to the Honorable Councillor. Yes, I know that the MSCOA compliance should have been implemented a while ago. There were time frames at the time. But I just want to check because I know some MPACs who actually calls the CFO to account on progress made on MSCOA. So I just want to check with COJ as to whether do you ever call the CFO or the officials to account in terms of progress made on the implementation of MSCOA.
Okay, so fortunately for this committee, I serve both on Group Finance and MPAC. I'm the only ward councillor that does so, but it's exactly for this reason, because GICT falls under Finance and not MPAC, and therefore I know where we stand with this, where we're sitting with this actual issue itself. I have asked for further details, and we'll keep on driving that to see where we're at, but I do feel there needs to be some form of intervention where we're at. What is the reasonable scope? So as you remember, we started with the whole, SAP HANA rollout, which then there was a whole issue around EOH, which that then dissolved the whole compliance. And this is where the problem is. So we keep on derailing the implementation, and we're not going full SAP HANA, we're going a multitude of other issues. But with this whole problem that's dealing with, so as you'll understand, Chair, our entities are sitting at a higher version than what the city core is. So there's this continuous dislink between the entities and ourselves. And obviously with that being happening, there's also been UIFW on the exact same issue in terms of the MSCOA compliance. So we do need to obviously have maybe a chat or sit around. Maybe I'll chat to you and see what we can do. But I do feel that we have to try and do something to get this thing on track.
Pass the mic to the back.
Chairperson, thanks once more. I think my colleague have elaborated in detail with that intervention request. Chair, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Nyang.
Let me just ask this question. Sorry, I'm not taking you backward. Are you aware of the MEC of Treasury, or Finance rather, that he has engaged Joburg MMC and relevant entities around issues of performance? Yeah, I just wanted to check that. Because you know why I'm raising these issues, Honorable Chair, is because the MEC of Finance did a roadshow across the metros and municipalities.
So to answer you
Hold
there,
on, hold on.
No, don't answer it. Maybe it's not relevant for this meeting. So, for this, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think maybe we should also be specific. I think the question is about on MSCOA is specific. It could be that the roadshow was on general issues, but I think you want to respond to that?
Chair, to respond to that, if it is, they've been economical with the truth, providing us the information as councillors. And that is where part of our problem lies, is that the information is not freely available, if that's the case.
No, but you'll still follow up whether was it really include that roadshow, did it include oversight on the implementation of MSCORE or didn't it? And then take it from there. Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Kekan.
Chair, maybe just from our side, I think we should also engage Treasury because MSCORE is Treasury is the custodian of MSCORE. So maybe we should check with them as to how far is the implementation. They must give us a breakdown in terms of all the municipalities, in terms of how far they have gone with the implementation of this reporting template. Thanks.
Exactly. The next one, next recommendation.
Recommendation 7, Chair, that members of the Executive Council for Local Government must improve the quality of reports to provincial legislatures on municipalities' action plans and performance. The response by GPT, Gauteng Provincial Treasury works together with the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in the province to provide support to municipalities to address issues raised by the Auditor General of South Africa through the Operation Clean Audit Provincial Coordinating Committee workshops. Progress to date, municipalities have developed their own individual Operation Clean Audit strategies. These strategies are captured and monitored through the National Treasury's web-enabled system. GPT, in collaboration with COCTA, developed an Operation Clean Audit strategy to provide strategic support to all municipalities in the province. Weekly meetings at municipal levels are held to track progress in dealing with the audit findings. The response by COCTA on the same recommendation, reports such as the MFMA section, which assesses the adequacy of audit action plans and omissions by municipalities, are compiled by the department after consultation with all the relevant stakeholders, such as the national and provincial treasuries and the South African Local Government Association, which has improved the quality of the recommendations in the reports towards improving municipal. Other reports, such as the MSA Section 47 report, are prepared at an adequate quality level to improve the performance of municipalities. The submission of the MFMA Section 131 and MSA Section 47 reports is done timeously. Monitoring the progress of the implementation of action plans are done quarterly.
Go to the next recommendation because it relates so that you can respond to it. Because this one, 7 and 8, is for us as the Gauteng legislature to respond to.
That there must be a timeous resolution of provincial legislatures to these reports and tracking of implementation of resolutions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. It's true that the reports are sent to the legislature on a quarterly basis. They go to the MEC for COCTA, and it is has oversight on them. We can't report for them now because they are not here, but it's something that we will follow up. But on financial audits and matters related to those, the legislature asked us as SCOPA to work together with the Portfolio Committee on COCTA to look at the matter. We're supposed to have started a month or so ago. As we are about to start, we got an advice that there are some processes that must be proclaimed by the Speaker. So we're waiting for the Speaker to proclaim that as soon as it's done, we'll be able to follow up on this, on these two recommendations. Whilst we note what the department says they've done on the first one, on the second one, is that it's our responsibility to do that oversight and come back to you and say how far we are. And we're just waiting for the Speaker to proclaim, then we'll be able to undertake that. Thank you very much. 9.
Recommendation 9, that the councils and MPACs improve implementation of the National Treasury Guidelines for dealing with unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless and wasteful expenditures, adopt National Treasury Consequence Management and Accountability Framework, monitor the status of material irregularities on a quarterly basis, oversee its resolution. The response by GPT, cooperation with COCTA, GPT also monitors how municipalities authorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditures, experiencing challenges in processing these expenditures are assisted accordingly to address those challenges. Then the response on the same recommendation by COCTA, deployment of SCM and audit experts to assist municipalities to put controls in place for the identification, prevention, reduction, and reporting of UIFW expenditures. This includes and is not limited to the following key areas in the municipal finance environment: prevent, reduce, and report identified unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditures, make recommendations for improving the environment, analyze the municipal financial management environment and making recommendations towards improving the environment, assess and analyze the municipal audit outcomes to address material findings in the area of UIFW in order to improve the areas of qualification raised by the Auditor General. The process of recording in terms of raising registers and reporting council and MEC on UIFW to ensure completeness, accuracy, and fair presentation on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. Preventative controls and reporting unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful. Assess and analyze municipal policies and make recommendations for policies to have controls in place for the prevention, identification, and investigation of UIFW expenditures in line with the National Treasury Circular 68 and the Municipal Finance Management Act. Support and strengthen the municipal capability to develop effective and innovative controls in dealing with irregular supply chain management contracts to address irregular expenditure. Support and strengthen the municipal capability to have controls in place for the utilization of the approved budget in order to eliminate unauthorized expenditure. Support and strengthen the municipal capability to develop effective and innovative controls in dealing with the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Make recommendations to improve structures, systems, policies, procedures in place to facilitate a positive change on UIFW expenditure. Make recommendations to the municipal leadership on processes in line with the legislation to follow to make officials accountable through the development of sound and robust internal controls to ensure that there is an improvement in the UIFW expenditures, to improve audit outcomes, and ultimately in the service delivery to communities. Support and strengthen the municipal capability to implement consequence management and recoveries, and training MPAC to dispatch their duties in relation to UIF and W expenditures. Thank you, Chair.
Maybe for us to be able to deal with this effectively is to ask direct questions to yourself. The first question is that, have you as municipalities been informed and also trained on this new framework on the UIF and W expenditure by the National Treasury. Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe to be direct, is by National Treasury and COGTA. And there was an intervention to that effect. Hence, earlier, I mentioned the appointed company from COGTA called Bonakude. They were focusing mostly on making sure that they strengthen our capacity when it comes to dealing with UIFW. Hence, today we can proudly, as we are sitting here as Rand West, to say that in terms of the question, your question was talking about, I think, about 4 things, if I'm not mistaken. The issue of consequence management, recovery, the issue of, it did not touch on write-offs, but we've done that, and the issue of investigations. In terms of consequence management...
You don't have to report for now the detail.
Yeah,
We just
okay.
wanted, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Question is, have you as municipalities, or MPACs in particular, been trained by National Treasury on the UIFW, the framework, and do you understand it? That's all we're asking for now. Yes, you can.
Chair, thank you. Yes, the City of Johannesburg has been done, but because of the changes in the MPAC committees, I think maybe a refresher would be welcomed for those new members, so that at least we get to understand that too. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other municipalities? Is there any municipality that hasn't been trained on this UIFW framework of the National Treasury? Yes. Mirafo? Tshwane? City of Tshwane? Have you been trained and do you understand it? They can't respond. They are unable to respond. Okay, why don't we agree as propose that maybe we need a refresher, seeing that you will soon be going through the assessment of the annual reports, that maybe we should engage National Treasury to ask them to have to conduct that training again for us as a refresher course as well. Are we agreed on that? Okay, please close that door there. They're making a noise, those people. Can you close the door there? Okay, thank you. The second part of the resolution has to do with the material irregularity. Because, okay, maybe for our colleagues for honorable members from Namibia, to understand material irregularity, I'm not sure if you have such. What happens is that the Auditor General in South Africa does audit what you call material irregularity. This is what it means. If they suspect, based on their audit, that there was an expenditure that is irregular, but it has a major impact on either service delivery, the finances of the municipality or the auditee, those kind of things, then they focus on it, and they raise it as a finding, but then they engage the accounting officer with the intention to say you must address this, and they make some recommendations on what should be done to address it, and then they leave it to them. Then they monitor it, and they expect that they must work on it. If they don't work on it, they can move to a stage of raising what they call a notice, like, well, I'll try to remember the correct name now, where the certificate where they say that because you haven't been able to act, you are then liable. Therefore, they can, if they can determine the amount that's involved, they can take it from you. So it's that kind of a process. So when that is raised, the expectation is that we as public accounts committees on a quarterly basis will check the implementation of the recommendations that have been there. And that's what you're talking about here. So I want to find out from the MPACs, are you capacitated to track the implementation of recommendations on the findings on the material irregularities? And if not, say so that we can engage the Office of the Auditor General to assist us with that.
Chair, unfortunately, City of Johannesburg, we are not. But can I also just add one other issue, if you don't mind, with your indulgence? Because you didn't mention material irregularities. And the problem with that is that we still have, in the 18-19 financial year, currently 3 material irregularities that are still open. What is the time frame that is required in order to ensure that those get closed? So what I'm trying to say to you, there is no movement on these issues, which becomes problematic. Thank you.
Okay, the time frame is determined by the AG working with the auditee, because every time the AG comes and audits, then they determine progress or no progress made, and then determine what should be the next step. Obviously, if by a particular time and they think that things should have been resolved and they are not, that's when they move to the next stage of issuing the certificate of debt. Yeah, that's what it is, certificate of debt, and all other processes follow.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's agree then that we will also engage the AG to assist us as MPACs on not only on what is material irregularity, but also on how to do oversight on the material irregularity. Are we agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Honorable Kenya.
Can I just also check something? We also need to check with the Office of the AG if they can check MIs retrospectively. Because remember the powers for them to take action on MIs was done recently. I can't remember how many years back. So we need to ascertain with them if they can action retrospectively. Thanks.
Okay,
Hearing from what Joburg is saying, citing many years back of MIs that were identified. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, we'll check that because all I remember is that when they introduced the Act, I think it was in 2019 or 2020 audit, somewhere there, they started by piloting some, so they didn't do everyone. And they said they were going to increase as time goes on, but we will check that as well. Okay. Let's move on to the next resolution. The last but one resolution.
It's actually 2, Chair. Recommendation 10, that the MPACs should strengthen the relationships with Gauteng Provincial Treasury by inviting the Provincial Treasury as observers. Meetings where it discusses the Auditor General's report and the municipal budget implementation, reviews the municipal budget implementation, and reviews municipal compliance with the Municipal Finance Management Act. I don't know, Chair, should I also read the last one, which is recommendation 11?
Let's deal with this one and finish it first.
Thank you.
Okay. This is basically the Gauteng Provincial Treasury saying to you, we are available to assist. So it's up to you to take up the challenge or not. And so it's going to be difficult to ask you to give us progress on this. But obviously at the time when there are problems with the audit outcomes, we must ask you the question, there was an offer, did you take it? Obviously we can't penalize you, you don't have powers to penalize you, we're just supporting you. Yes,
Chair, just for clarification, I know for the City of Johannesburg, every time we ask provincial treasury, they always refer us to national. So is there a alignment that when it comes to metros that they automatically say we must go to national? Because provincial always seems to back out and they refer us to national.
Yeah, we'll have to check that because our understanding is that they are the first point of call. Only if they are unable to deal with matters that they can then be able to. Maybe one of the things we might want to do, I'm not sure if we are overstepping our mandate, but I don't think we are, that some of the things you could ask through us to follow up on your behalf. That is, we follow up with the departments as to some of these things. So you write to them, you say this, but then you also ask us that you've asked them for this, this is what they said. Can you be able to assist us to intervene? Agreed? Thank you very much. So the last recommendation of our last meeting?
That MPACs should regularly inform the provincial treasury of the outcomes of its findings, especially where the municipality is in contravention of the Municipal Finance Management Act. It's also supposed to be responded to by MPACs. Thanks,
Yeah.
Chair.
So the question is, you should be able to inform. I'm not sure if that is clear. It's a support that they want to offer you. So if you inform, then they can be able to intervene. Okay.
Thank you once again, Chair. Chair, this one, I think let's cut it to the chase. It's legislated. We are required to report every time to National Treasury and to the COCTA on certain issues. I think it is legislated within the MFMA and certain regulations that I cannot recall, but I know that they always make sure it's a compliance matter. They always want our reports.
No, thank you very much for that update. So we've come to the end of checking progress on our resolutions, and we have also agreed on some of the follow-up work, but there's still work that requires you to follow up on them. What we will do is also requested that within a short space of time, I'm talking to the support staff of the SCOPA legislature, we need to produce the consolidated report with these recommendations from here, and then ensure that it's circulated to the MPACs so that they can also look at things to be followed up and things to be implemented. And that on our side will then also, it will help us to follow up on some of the matters that arose here. We are going to be off for the quarter as Gauteng legislature. It's called constituency break. But when we come back, we are dealing with the annual reports of departments. And you know that when we deal with those, we also invite you. We might want to use one of those sessions to report back on progress made on these things that we have discussed today as well. Would that way forward be acceptable? Agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on then to the next item. The next item is that there was an issue that arose last time about the applicability of the Companies Act or non-applicability of Companies Act on the entities and all that. So we'll ask Winnie, who's from our legal department, to make that presentation, and let's have a discussion. After that, Winnie, over to you. May the presentation be, please? Do you have to move to the other place? Yeah. Oh, okay, sure. Thank you. I think that your laptop is not yet compatible. That's why it's not showing on the screen. When all 11 municipalities achieve clean audit. Okay, you can't use a different laptop because I'm just worried about time. Yes. You see, this place was dark. Now there's light. There are lots of lighter notes. Let's hear. We need to we're recording everything, so you must get a mic.
On the lighter note, since there is light, on our previous engagement,
My name is?
My name is Masindi Kabrali Mbengwa Wakwinda, City of Joburg, MPAC, and elected with a constituency.
Go to all those details. You just wanted to know your name, yeah, sure.
Elected with a constituency. I wanted to, on our light engagement, we requested that issues that were deliberated on be emailed to us after that engagement in that hotel. We never get such. So just to refresh and putting us in line with everything. And then I made that plea to your technical team, but we never get such a response. The presentation, we wanted them to be emailed to us.
Yeah, that matter was addressed earlier by the owner. So we have addressed on how we're going to do that. That's why I emphasized at the end of this meeting that we need to make sure that immediately after this, those are presented. So we'll we note that. Over to you, Winnie.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good afternoon to all honorable members and our esteemed guests. What I have before you is a legal opinion that was requested by the committee regarding the application of the Companies Act on state-owned entities. And there was a particular request that we zoom into one of the provincial entities in the province, which the committee exercises oversight over. And that is the Gauteng Management Agency Act. So for the purposes of this particular meeting, just to try and bring some relevance to that particular section of our opinion, we're just going to use it as a case study to illustrate really how can we really go about conducting effective oversight as SCOPA, as MPACs, over state-owned entities, whether at provincial or municipal level. Furthermore, just as a disclaimer, the opinion was drafted in mind with rather provincial entities in mind, and so we've just tried to in order to accommodate also MPACs which are present here, we've just tried to also just tweak it here and there to try and bring in some relevant provisions that may relate to MPACs, so that perhaps they could also just find the presentation a little bit more useful. So without further ado, let me just quickly get onto it. So just by way of introduction, as I've already indicated, we were briefed to provide the committee with a legal opinion on just the application of the new Companies Act on state-owned entities. And initially, this request had initially arose from certain questions that had been posed by a particular member of the committee to the MEC for Transport and Logistics relating to a particular entity, the Gauteng Management Agency. And from that, I think we extrapolated from those questions by that honorable member and responses by the MEC, we identified three primary themes or issues that needed to be addressed. The first is the classification of the form of a provincial public entity through the lens of the Public Finance Management Act, as well as just the underlying enabling legislation. The second issue relates to, the obligations of accounting authorities of public, provincial public entities, and the applicable legal consequences for not compliance with those obligations. And lastly, what are some of the key considerations that this committee and perhaps also, MPACs as well, may need to take into account when exercising oversight on the provincial public entities or municipal entities. So just in terms of structure, in order just to structure our discussion, we've structured it into about 6 parts. The first part is the introductory section, which I've just concluded on. The second part is, we set out the background and consider, the issues of state-owned companies under the Companies Act. And in part 3, we consider the classification of the Gauteng Management Agency. Is it a state-owned company or a public entity? That is the part that I was saying that we could use as a case study, just to illustrate some of the points that we have made. Part 4, we examine the obligations of the board of the agency through the system of the enabling legislation, which is the Gauteng Management Agency Act, the Public Finance Management Act, as well as the King 4 Code. In part 5, we provide just a summation of our key findings and highlight some of the considerations that honorable members might want to consider in exercising oversight on provincial public entities. And lastly, our recommendations and conclusions can be found in part 6. Moving on to part 2, which deals with background state-owned companies under the Companies Act. And under that section, we started with Section 8 of the Companies Act, which makes provision for two types of companies, which may be formed and incorporated. And those are namely, you have your profit companies with shareholders, and your non-profit companies, which may be with or without members. And Section 1 of the Act defines profit companies as those companies incorporated for the purpose of financial gain for the company's shareholders. Included under that rubric of profit companies are state-owned companies, private companies, and personal liability companies. Now, our focus here is on state-owned companies, the first category. So all other companies which do not meet the requirement of these 3 companies form 3 forms of private companies are deemed to be public companies. So we just wanted to highlight that, and we've cited Section 8(2) of the Companies Act under footnote 1. We also wanted just to note that, state-owned companies must be registered under the Act and must meet one of 2 further requirements. It must be listed as a public entity under Schedule 2 or 3 of the Public Finance Management Act, or it must be owned by a municipality as contemplated in the Local Government Municipal Systems Act, and must also be similar to an enterprise listed under the as a public entity under Schedule 2 or 3 of the Public Finance Management Act. Specifically contained in Section 9 of the Act. And we've noted that Section 9(1) Act provides that any provision of the Companies Act that applies to a public company equally applies to state-owned entities, except to the extent that the minister has granted an exemption in terms of Section 9(3). So a member of cabinet responsible for state-owned companies excuse me, may request the minister to grant a total, partial, or conditional exemption from one or more provisions of this Act, applicable to all state-owned companies, any class of state-owned companies, or to one or more particular state-owned companies. Further, Section 292B empowers local government matters may request the minister to grant a total, partial, or conditional exemption from one or more provisions of this Act applicable to all state-owned companies owned by a municipality, any class of such enterprise, or to one or more particular such enterprise, on the grounds that those provisions overlap or duplicate an applicable regulatory scheme established in terms of any other national legislation. So we've also noted a Constitutional Court judgment, which basically just reaffirmed Section 9, the Section 9 application and exemptions that we've alluded to, and that was the case of Minister of Defense and Military Veterans versus Mutau and others, and the citation is there, 2014-5 SA 69 CC. And in that particular case, the Constitutional Court reaffirmed or noted that, you know, Section 9 of the Companies Act deals specifically with the statute's application to affairs of state-owned companies. The effect of that provision is that state-owned companies are, for all intents and purposes, to be treated as public companies unless a cabinet member has procured an comply with the companies. So, excuse me, or entities that fall within the rubric of the Companies Act are subject to all the provisions of the Companies Act. And the provisions of the Companies Act are quite vast. There are over 200 sections or provisions of the Companies Act. So in this particular document, we did not see the need to go through each and every one of them. I think we'd sit here until the cows come home. So we have just highlighted some provisions that we think might be of interest to you as SCOPA or as MPACs in exercising your oversight duties, and we'd have done that in the next paragraph. Some sections that may be of specific importance include your sections, if you look at the Companies Act, sections 23 to 34 of the Companies Act, may be of particular importance to your work. And these make a provision for transparency, accountability, and integrity of companies. These sections regulate inter alia, amongst other things, accounting records, your financial statements, your access to financial statements or related information, your annual returns, etc. So those particular provisions may be of particular importance or of interest to you. Furthermore, we also noted sections 66 to 78, which dealing with the governance of companies. And these provisions include the ineligibility and disqualification of persons to be directors or prescribed officers, your vacancies on boards, your removal of directors, board committees, directors' personal financial interest, the standards of directors' conduct, and the liability of directors and prescribed officers, amongst other things. So those are really the provisions that, there are others, but I mean, just in terms of just trying to highlight the salient provisions that may be of, interest to you as oversight committees. Those are in particular, I think, worth noting. As I said, we've tried to, readjust this particular document to also include municipalities. So we've also just quickly had a look at, some of the, relevant pieces of legislation that may be applicable to municipal entities in addition to the Companies Act. So we've looked at the Local Government Municipal Systems Act, and in particular, we've looked at Section 68, capital B of that particular act, which sets out that the 3 types of entities that may be established, and these are a private company, a service utility, established by a municipality, in terms of Part 3 of that act, and a multi-jurisdictional service utility established by 2 or more municipalities in terms of Part 4. Now, I think for the purposes of this particular discussion, we'd want to focus on a private company because that is the kind of entity that the Companies Act would be applicable to. So we just wanted to note that. Also, furthermore, we just wanted to also highlight that when it comes to private companies, Section 80C is also relevant in that it regulates the establishment and acquisition of private companies. It's important to note that if a municipality establishes a private company or holds an interest in such a company, it must comply with the Companies Act. And the citation there refers to the old Companies Act, and that should be rectified in the actual legislation because there is now the 2008 Companies Act. And any other law regulating companies, but if any conflict arises between that act or such a law and a provision of this act prevails. So that provision just basically points out that this act, where there's conflict, will prevail. That is the Municipal Systems Act. And another important section that we've also noted is Section 86D, which regulates the legal status of private companies established by municipalities or in which municipalities, hold interest. So yeah, that is the Municipal Systems Act. And a very important piece of legislation, which I think an honorable member did indicate that we should, I'm not trying to be sacrilegious, but use it as sort of your Bible, because this is the piece of legislation that will really help and assist you in understanding what you should be doing as SCOPAs or MPACs when it comes to exercising oversight of municipal entities, and that is the Municipal Public Finance Act. And we just wanted to quickly zoom in. We didn't want to go through all of the the provisions of this particular act, but we just wanted to highlight some salient provisions again, which may be of some use when you are exercising your oversight. Excuse me. And the first one is section 172 of this particular act.
Wait, may I ask the following? That because, as you have indicated, some of the things you had to update recently, would it be a problem if we just said, just highlight the key important things, and then we'll give the MPACs the opportunity and members here an opportunity, not today, to then go back and look at some of the important things so that you can take the discussion further. So what I'm suggesting is that you highlight key important things that you must take note of, or sections, and then we'll be able to interrogate it further later.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Chairperson. I'll just quickly highlight section 172. I won't read through it. Again, this is the section of the Act which makes provision for financial misconduct by officials of municipal entities. And I think it's worth, noting. And also, senior managers or other officials of municipal entities are not spared as well in this provision. So section 172, 2 and 3 of this act is relevant in just shedding light on the kind of financial misconduct that they can be held accountable for. So those are really, some key provisions that, MPACs should take into account. And just to highlight that, from these provisions, it's clear that accounting officers and municipal managers or municipal senior managers and officials may attract criminal liability with respect to certain conduct. And persons found guilty under section 173 can be liable on conviction of an offense to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 5 years or appropriate fine. So we just wanted to highlight that, this particular Municipal Public Finance Act is not a toothless tiger. In its design, it has enforcement mechanisms, and MPACs just need to understand the contents and contours of this act because it can become a useful tool in its arsenal in dispensing with their oversight duties. Moving on to our case study. I'm not sure whether I should go through it again, Chairperson,
Yeah, maybe you
or not,
shouldn't
should
because
just skip.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't because it might not be a good case study for them as municipalities. Yeah, unless there's something important you want to highlight, and then yeah, sure.
So under this particular one, we had gone quite extensively in considering, the obligation of board members, both under the Public Finance Management Act, as well as considering, tabling reports and financial statements in the GPL. So I think that we can quickly skip that one because it may not make any sense or be applicable. We've also discussed the King 4 code, again, which sets out sort of like the standards for corporate governance, and state-owned entities are not excluded in that. But perhaps let me just go to the last section, which we had set out, which highlights key considerations for SCOPAs. Section, we just provide a summary or summation of our key findings and exercising their oversight role on provincial public entities, and perhaps by extension. So the first one is that when you're considering public entity, Public Finance Management Act, as it defines what constitutes a provincial public entity and what can be established enterprise, or they can come in the form of a board, a commission, provincial business enterprise. So when it comes to latter category, namely, they must be established in terms of legislation or a provincial constitution, fully or substantially funded either from a provincial revenue fund by way of a tax levy or other money imposed in terms of legislation. And lastly, they must be accountable to a provincial legislature. And once the form of the provincial public entity has been established, then consider the applicable enabling legislation. For example, in this case, we have used the Gauteng Management Agency Act. And then the enabling legislation and the PFMA should be read together in understanding the role and duties of accounting officers, or authority rather, as well as the management of directors. Furthermore, other relevant legislation, regulations, and principles, such as the King 4 Code, may be taken into account. Again, in this opinion, we have set out the obligations of the board members of the agency found in the GMA Act, as well as we've provided an examination of the responsibilities and accountability and liability of the board under the PFMA. We've further set out the consequences for non-compliance, and also just highlighted that the GPL is entitled to require the MEC to account to it for any reported non-compliance by the agency's board. A key responsibility is the tabling of annual reports and financial statements in the GPL. Where there is failure to do so, the relevant MEC must table a written explanation in the legislature setting out the reasons why they are not tabled. Furthermore, the Auditor General may issue a special report on the delay. We've also just set out the financial misconduct as envisaged in Section 83(1) of the PFMA, which might take place, and also the civil liability and criminal sanctions that may be visited upon the board. And lastly, we've also just set out some good governance principles applicable to public entities. So, in conclusion, we just wanted to, try and assist and really hope that the exposition of the current legal position just assists honorable members of this particular committee, and that was SCOPA, on the intricacies and nuances of, provincial public entities, their legislative responsibilities, as well as, the consequences for non-compliance. The committee has in its arsenal, various oversight mechanisms in our rules, which the GPL standing rules, such as, the scrutiny of reports, focus intervention studies, committee inquiries, member statements, questions posed to MECs, etc. And the relevance or applicability of any of these mechanisms will depend on, the circumstances of each case. And moreover, the committee has been given just wide enough powers to execute its mandate under our standing rules. And we especially note its powers just to report on any financial statement or report it has examined to the House, as well as the power to initiate any investigation in its area of competence. So that is the opinion that we were requested to provide on a very specific matter, but we've tried to accommodate the audience in this particular session. Some of it may not make sense because it is out of context, but I think the takeaway here for MPACs and, generally just public account committees, when you are exercising oversight over municipal entities or provincial public entities, is that you need to first understand the nature of the beast that you're dealing with. Is it a private company? Is it that falls under the Companies Act, or is it something other than a company? And if it's something other than a company, for example, is it a board, or any of the other entities that we have listed, then you have to look at the underlying enabling legislation that brought that particular entity into life. And that is where you will understand the nature of the power, the nature of the obligations of that particular entity, as well as the obligations of the directors, or as the Act says, the accounting authorities, or however they have been, labeled. Basically, the people or the personnel that really lead the company, so that you can hold them to account on specific matters. And in all, the common thread in all of these pieces of legislation is that any transgression or failure to comply with any of these relevant acts may attract civil and criminal liabilities, and which you as public accounts committees need to be aware of those certain provisions, which may come into good use when you're exercising your oversight. Yeah, I think that is what I wanted to impart.
Okay, thank you very much for that. As I said, as you've indicated that as we're doing this, you kept on updating it to also our municipalities. So let's discuss this preliminary report. Based on our discussions, we'll then try and tighten up and ensure that we move from there. Starting with yes.
Chair, as you know, I'm the one who was advocating for this together with my colleague in your provincial legislature. What I would like to ask firstly is, how would one get a report from the minister indicating what exclusions or partial exclusions has he granted? Because I think that's where we first need to start. As in all the entities, what is he, which entities has he excluded for what? Can we get that? I don't know how we go about that, but I'm sure it'll obviously reside this side going up and then coming back down. The reason why I'm asking for that is obviously as the City of Johannesburg that I mentioned last time, with the 14 entities that we have, are all incorporated under the Companies Act. So hence why we asked for this as well through our member of the provincial legislature. The other question that I have is it possible that when we're doing these kind of investigations or responsibilities, do we have to stick, for argument's sake, specifically to the MMFA, or can we then do in conjunction? So what I'm trying to do is in conjunction with the MMFA, with the Companies Act, so when we start putting these things forward, we can say, these are your role responsibility in terms of section 172, 173 on the MMFA. These are your responsibilities in terms of the Companies Act, that they overlap each other and both are applicable. That's the first thing I want to ask. The second thing that I think is also problematic, Chair, is that I do not think that the Auditor General envisaged what is happening, and in saying so, they are not auditing our entities in terms of the Companies Act, they're genuinely auditing it under the MMFA, which is part of the problem as well, and possibly also on your side, the PMFA. I know that we've mentioned in terms of the City of Johannesburg that if they do not mention both acts, we will not approve the reports. But I don't think they're equipped to do both, and hence why I think we need to also have that conversation with the AG and National Treasury too. Thanks, Chair.
There was another hand at the back.
Thank you, Chair. Just a clarity on the feed, or I just saw there where you've mentioned that the possibility of actually attracting criminal liability when either doing oversight. Can you just give us a few examples so that we can then gel well with the explanation that you've provided? And the other one would have then been if you've mentioned of the state-owned and properties. Do you perhaps have examples of such? Because then, with recent activities that is happening in Joburg, we would just want to make sure that we relate these matters to such matter, to your state as you stipulated. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Winnie.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. I'll start with the first one. So how do we go about knowing which exemptions have been granted by the minister? I'd say the most simplest way was just to write to the minister and request that kind of information from them. It should be public record. But if it's not, then I think that, just a mere letter or so, just to request that kind of information, and they should be able to provide that kind of information to you. It should be readily available from them. That's the ministry. With regards to the application of the Municipal Public Finance Management Act, as well as the Companies Act, I'd say that, and which is applicable, I'd say that they usually complement each other. However, you'll find that sometimes you'll read a provision and you'll find that there are a bit more stringent requirements in another provision of the Act. For example, you will find that the Municipal Public Finance Management Act would have a bit more stringent provisions when it comes to your state-owned entities compared to perhaps your Companies Act. And so I think that in such a case, you'd obviously go for the more specific. So your Municipal Public Finance Management Act. I think that's just what I wanted to highlight. With regards to example of criminal sanctions, I think they're fraught in every piece of legislation that I have alluded to, but I'll just quickly make an example under the Municipal Public Finance Management Act. And when you look at Section 72 of the Act, whether it's still, it's not flighted anymore. So it sets up instances of when an accounting officer of a municipality would contravene the Act, or would attract a financial misconduct rather. And it lists there when, for example, it contravenes a provision of this Act, it fails to comply with the duty imposed by a provision of this Act on the accounting officer of a municipal entity. It makes or permits or instructs another official of the municipal entity to make an irregular or fruitless and wasteful expenditure, or provides incorrect or misleading information in any document which, in terms of this Act, must be submitted to the entity's board of directors or parent municipality, or to the Auditor General, or made public. So, for example, those are the instances that may attract criminal liability, in the sense that they would qualify as financial misconduct. So, and this does not only, and we also highlighted that this doesn't only, is applicable to accounting officers, so your highest of your highest in the hierarchy, but also senior management or other officials of municipal entities. They're also included in that provision, regulating financial misconduct, which can attract both civil and criminal in criminal liability. So that is just one example of an instance where criminal liability may be applicable. There are others.
Okay, no, thank you very much. We are under a serious pressure. I want to make the following suggestion. Remember what was said? It was said the report was also just updated on some of the aspects. And I know that you don't have that copy, you have another copy of the report. So I wanted to suggest that we circulate the recent copy, you engage with it, and then we're not going to wait for the next meeting, which is 3 months from now. We'll try and organize a meeting urgently to try and deal with those matters. Unless it's something that's extremely urgent, because we're seriously under pressure now. Or you can take it up with Winnie after the meeting. Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. I'll take up your offer, but just one last thing I wanted to ask is in terms of when the municipal-owned entities are trading recklessly, in terms of, i.e., not putting out publicly that they're technically insolvent, do we then take them out in terms of the Companies Act? Because that is very stringent in terms of the Companies Act, because there's nothing covered in the MPA. So that's why I said, I know you said the Company Act's provisions are across the whole board. I want to know what is our remedies on that aspect, because it is problematic.
Okay, let's ask that she puts it in the report and then be able to deal with it like that. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Honorable councillors, our colleagues from Namibia, honorable members, we've come to the end of our meeting. We are under serious pressure. Just before we close, I want to give the chair, yes, I agree that just 1 minute or so, and then I'll come back and close the meeting officially. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, my Honorable Kanyile, Chairperson of SCOPA. We really wholeheartedly, as the Namibian delegation, appreciate us being part of this session and in your efforts even to postpone this session until our arrival and so that we can part. So let's, whatever was discussed here is really something that one can take home with as lessons learned. And I think some of the queries and all the queries that was also raised here, it's similar to what we have in the Public Account Committee and the National Council. So I think we are really have got in common, a lot in common that we can always share, and also your solution will also be our solutions. And then for your kindness and being very kind with us, we also have a small gift that we brought along that we wanted to give you as our token of appreciation, and I will thank you in advance.
I didn't expect that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was done in public, so it's declared. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair, for that, for the appreciation. I must say that we have come to the end of our session. What is important with our session, colleagues, is that we want to take seriously the issue of oversight. And one of the biggest problems that we have in our oversight model is capacity to follow up on our recommendation and ensure that they are implemented. So it is part of this exercise that we're doing this, but we're doing it in the case of the matters that affect you. There's noise now. On the matters that affect you as MPACs, and also that affect the general mandate that we have of ensuring effective oversight on public financial management, governance, and accountability. So we will then take up all the other recommendations we've made, follow up on them, but most importantly, we'll ensure that the report is readily available soon so that you can be able to interact with it, and when you call at the next meeting, you are able to interact with that and give responses as urgently as possible. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned and lunch is served. You only have 10 minutes to go to the dining room. because they are going to close soon. So please make sure that you're there. You can stay for 1 hour when you are there, but as long as you are there within 10 minutes. Thank you very much.